live, I think, theoretically.
All right.
Okay, we're live. Welcome, Susanna. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome everyone to our third episode of Drunk Science. This is kind of a weird and fun episode this week because one of our guests is coming from a party, and so she had to dress up, and then we were all like, well, we're all gonna dress up. So here we are. Thank you guys so much for joining. Super excited to have Susanna L Harris on the channel this week. This is awesome. Susanna, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. Your last two episodes have been hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just so good to talk to you again. How long has it been since we got to talk in person?
It's been, let's see, I think you came to SF in October, maybe?
Yeah.
It was right before my surgery, I think. It was like
a
couple of weeks before. So for those who don't know, Susanna was giving a talk, right, in SF?
Yeah.
And I was like, come hang out with me. And then you ended up at an underground boxing match. And I was like, wow, you were so cool.
It was a good time.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that was it was San Francisco's always a fun time. So
it's a good place. Okay, so to give people some idea of kind of how this is going to unfold. So first, we are going to cheers everyone and welcome everyone by taking a shot. And I highly encourage everyone to write what they are drinking in the YouTube chat thing. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how Susanna got into science, what she does, and some of her most interesting stories that are kind of top of mind. And we will likely have some guest appearances. So very excited for that. Okay, Susanna, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, luckily I had vodka in my house already, which looks
luckily.
Yeah, no, it's been here for a long time. It just like the family size vodka it's a look. So
yeah, that is it's great because I also have the family size Woodford. So we're matching. This is good.
Good.
All right, should we pour our shots?
We should. So this is like probably the nerdiest thing about me is that I have these instead of shot glasses because you can actually measure it. So it should be like
that's great. Yeah, no, I got this from a friend and
so good.
I think it's a double shot glass, but I don't really know.
You're like, I don't know. Oops.
I just kind of go with it. I have kind of on brand my blue Gatorade as my chaser. Oh yeah.
Wait, your brand is Gatorade?
I guess. I don't know. It's like really the only chaser I have in this apartment during lockdown. Because we were like, oh, if we get sick, we'll want to drink Gatorade. And instead of saving it for when I get sick, I'm just kind of drinking it to get drunk.
Well, it keeps you from getting sick. So it's really preventative medicine.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, exactly. Okay, so I know you did a poll for what we should cheers to. What did people say?
Oh man, people had everything. I really liked Rose's option, which was just like love.
Oh, I love that. I love Rose.
So,
okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we ready?
Yes, I don't use chasers, so I'm like, okay, this looks bad.
Oh, you're way more badass than I am. Okay, all right, ready? Cheers to love.
Here's to love.
Go chug it. Gatorade. Jesus. Okay. Man.
Wow, I feel
Woodford is not meant to be chugged. Delicately sipped.
I feel like I was not the person who suggested we take a shot to begin.
No, I know. This is a me thing, but you know what? We gotta do it for the science.
It's true. So I'm gonna keep just doing that, not doing shots. But just do
straight vodka.
Yeah, on the rocks with there's some lemon. There's lemon.
I genuinely think you were the only person I know who just sips vodka.
It's pretty good stuff though. I mean,
yeah, Tito's is great. It's from Texas, right? It's from Austin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says it in the bottle. Actually, my brother lives down there in Austin.
Really?
Yeah, I have a younger brother.
Are they in college? Is he in college?
No, he just graduated a couple years ago, I guess. He works, he has a CPA. Woo, vodka. Uh,
It's coming up.
and he works like in corporate accounting stuff. He's like a real adult, but he's 4 years younger than I am. So
Wow. That's
yeah.
cool. My friend is a CPA and I'm like, oh, you like have a real job with, real things. And I am sitting here just doodling on my code and not doing anything, but that's cool. Okay, so tell me a little bit about, why don't you talk a little bit about introduce yourself and what kind of science you do.
Sure. So my name is Susanna. I actually just got my PhD, which is, it really feels good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Everyone told me, I got a lot of people saying like it doesn't feel as big of a deal as you were expecting. So I think maybe my bar was set really low. I was just like, whatever, just make it end. But I've slowly been feeling my brain return.
When did you officially qualify? Or I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, pass. So I officially passed on March 30th. So
oh my God, that's
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so microbiology at UNC is a little bit different, and we do a private defense and then a public defense, and that used to be required, and it's not required. Yeah, I really like it. The department's awesome. I really like this because that way the stressful part of like actually talking with your committee and really defending is a couple weeks before your friends and family and everyone come together. So normally it would be the private defense where they say, okay, you've passed and now you have to do the public and then you get to be doctor. But because of the COVID situation, I got done with the private one and they like kicked me out to my own little Zoom room. And then they
my God, so you were in a waiting room?
I was just like, cool. Yeah.
Brutal.
And they brought me back in and they were like, all right, well, you're a doctor now. I was like, all right, sweet, cool. But then, so they said that I had the option of doing a public defense. And so I am going to be doing that public defense because, like my parents have stuck by me for the last 6 years and there's
definitely.
Yeah. And it's kind of a bummer to not get to celebrate. So that's going to be April 20th, which is Monday.
Monday. At what time?
2 p.m. Eastern. So 11 a.m. for you.
Okay. And how can people watch?
Oh yeah, it's going to be on YouTube because I don't know. There's actually a reason.
Amazing. I don't know if I have the balls to do that. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, there's some of that, but it's mostly that I don't want to have to teach my parents how to use Zoom. We already got them through Skype. That was really great. Really proud of them.
Yeah.
Don't want to have to do it. So yeah, it'll be on Zoom. That's already scheduled and everything. People can hop on. And what I'm really excited about with that versus Zoom is that it can be a really big group of people. I'm planning on keeping the actual science to like 30 minutes and then trying to have about 30 minutes where I can.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And can the community ask questions? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, that's like the idea of the public defense. And so normally it's, friends and family, it's like an open lecture hall or something like this. But actually a lot of the people who have really gotten me through grad school these last few years have been online. And so part of me feels really lucky that I can have this forum, and it's always cool to see people's names pop up and for me to be like, oh my gosh, you were there for the last 2 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So is the content of what you talk about on Monday the same as your private defense, or is it kind of tailored to the public?
That's a good question. So the other reason that micro does it separately is so that our private can be like really hardcore. Here's all my data. Here's everything I've ever done. And then our public, we have a little bit more freehand. And so I'm really going to take advantage of that and try to make it as, accessible as possible to friends and family. So it's like the same content, right? But instead of really digging into, okay, which statistical analysis did I use for this, it's going to be more background and more like in context and why it really matters.
That's so cool. Are you nervous? How are you feeling about it?
I just got nervous about it today, actually, because my postdoc, who I've been working under for a long time and is the reason I am graduating, his name is Noam and he's amazing. He asked if I wanted him to check through my slides, and I was like, oh yeah, I should double check that those are ready to go. But yeah, I'm nervous, but people have always been really supportive. And, as you know, there's always some people who aren't, but
Yeah,
they're not worth it.
totally. Yeah. Well, congratulations again. I feel like we need to cheers one more time on you getting your fucking PhD. It's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Look forward to it. It's worth it. In my opinion.
I want to expand more on that actually, because I know you specifically talk a lot about post PhD life and graduate school and all of that. So I want to talk more about that. But first, can you give us a little bit of background about how you got into science and what kind of science you do?
Totally. A lot of it goes back to, I feel like a lot of people have these sort of similar experiences, but my dad was really into biology and oceanography. And he actually was, for a time, a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade biology and anatomy teacher.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so it was really normal for me to, on the weekends, go in with him and like help him set up little lab activities. Or I still remember how cool I thought it was that there was a deer in a jar, like a baby deer in a jar, and just
The entire deer.
yeah, it was a
How big was the jar?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, like 4th grade, like this is cool. I like this deer in a jar, and I think that was probably the biggest thing, is that experience got to me before I started to get these kind of ingrained feelings of, oh, I shouldn't like this, or I still think about, I used to find bugs and just pick them up and be like, what's this thing? How cool is it? How many legs? And I'm like, no, nope. But I think that I knew I really liked learning about stuff. I enjoyed science classes, and the really big pivotal moment for me was I took this AP bio class, so honors bio, in my junior year of high school. We spent 2 days, I think, on viruses and bacteria, and I was like, this is the coolest shit I have ever seen in my life.
Wow.
I mean, I had spent all of this time looking around and, going to tide pools. I have family members out in California, really exploring a lot of different areas, trying different sciences. And it was all really interesting. But then this was like, this is everywhere. And I have never been able to see it, but it's also something that I can manipulate right in front of me.
Yeah.
And with a microscope, with some basic techniques, I can actually do the science. And so that combination of not being explored yet, but also that I can just jump in and do stuff. So yeah, I went to the University of Iowa for undergrad and did a undergrad degree in microbiology.
Did you do research in undergrad?
I did. So I worked for Professor John Kirby. He's now at Milwaukee, University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. It's a medical school. I probably just butchered it. But he brought me into his lab, and I actually wasn't very excited at first. I took it because I knew I wanted a lab job. I was really nerdy, and I joined like a microbiology undergrad student association my freshman year.
Sure.
And everyone in, like,
as one does. Yeah.
Everyone in there was in a lab, and they said, you have to get lab experience.
Yeah.
And so John brought me into this lab that was studying soil bacteria. And it's a bacterium called Myxococcus xanthus. And it doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't really help anybody. It's not. And I was like, all right, I'll do this for a year. I'll get the experience. And then I'll go work in a really cool lab. Like I'll work in a staph lab, like Staphylococcus aureus that makes people sick, or I'll work in a vaccine lab. And I got to start learning about just this bacterium and how it has all these super complex behaviors, like in a group, different bacteria that communicate with each other. So it's all the same bacteria, they communicate with each other, and they turn into different types of cells so that it has a multicellular structure, and it's all through like chemical signaling. Right. And
is that unique to this specific type of bacteria, or is that just like how bacteria works? I don't know anything about biology.
No. It's actually pretty normal, but you wouldn't know it if you read a lot of books that are not written by microbiology. Yeah. Even if they are, I understand, like, that's the hard part of kind of balancing between making it accessible versus, bringing out these really amazing intricacies that I think make science worth learning.
Yeah.
So
when you were in college, was it the intricacies that got you hooked, or was it kind of the broad spectrum passion about soil or about bacteria that got you hooked?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a question that no one has ever asked me.
Nice.
Yeah, nailed it. Nailed it.
Yeah, cheers.
Can't wait to see your interviews in space. But seriously, I can't wait for that. That'll be sick. What was it? I know what it is. It was the fact that I love reading. I'm starting to do it a little bit more again, but I'm like, I like reading for pleasure, but I also just really enjoy taking in a lot of information and trying to like assimilate it into what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Crossing all these things. And that's where research gave me an opportunity, where it's like, you have this idea and your job is to go find as much information that exists about it and then find out where that information stops.
Yeah.
Wherever that border is, your job is to like start filling it in. It's sort of like making a puzzle that you're not like starting randomly in the middle and just setting a piece down and hoping it works. You usually have to find wherever that border is and see if you can find one more puzzle piece to add in and start completing that image that we have from science.
Love that analogy. Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I love about doing research as well, is I feel like you're kind of telling a story and your job is to just write the next chapter of that story. And that chapter may or may not be revolutionary to the book, but at least it's, you're making a little bit of progress.
Right. Yeah, I still really love some parts of research, and I'm sure we'll get into that part.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
so in terms of, I did that research in undergrad, and I started realizing, it's just really fun to do. And I found out in undergrad, actually it was a specific conference. So every year that student association goes to the American Society for Microbiology general meeting, which is now called Microbe. It's this huge conference, like thousands of people get together and talk about all forms of microbiology, from like tiny worms to immunology to viruses, all this cool stuff. And I got to go to that and I got to see what kind of breadth of research really existed. And that each individual person though was very specific. So it wasn't like opening the human version of a textbook where it's just everything. It was like you could walk into a room and learn everything you'd ever want to know about T-cell reaction to a virus at the age of 5, and I realized like that could be a way for me to, like you were saying, like kind of write your own story, start to be one of those people that create something that other people then go and read. And
right.
learn.
So I know some of the labs that you mentioned when you were initially looking to do research were more like medicine focused, like like vaccines or something like that. At any point when you started doing this sort of soil microbe stuff, were you like, well, this isn't actually doing that? It doesn't have a direct impact on people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I came to grad school in the summer, fall of 2014. That's right, of 2014. And we were allowed to rotate in different labs.
Oh, that's cool. I love when universities do that. That's really important.
Exactly. So I actually rotated in a Yersinia pestis lab with Virginia Miller. So that's the bacterium that causes the plague. I rotated in a C. diff lab, Clostridium difficile, that causes a really big issue in like nosocomial infections in hospitals. And the reason I started with those two is exactly what you were saying, is that I said, I've gotten some of this kind of basic or exploratory research. Now I want to do something that I feel like I could publish a paper and see some sort of lineage to where it helps a person.
Yeah.
And there were actually a lot of limitations about what kind of research I could do. So there were sort of two things that, both of those labs were great. The whole department's awesome. Like I can't say enough good things about UNC Micro. But working with animals, one, was really hard for me. although I enjoyed the deer in the jar, like I didn't put the deer in the jar, and I had never had to work with animals. And I have huge respect for people who do and who can do that. But it was really difficult for me to conceptualize and also to kind of to feel like whatever question I was asking was not just worth my time, but was worth the lives of other animals. So that was one big part. And the other thing too, is that when you're working with human pathogens, so things that make humans sick, especially something like the plague, there's so many rules in place. And so in the lab I ended up with, that soil bacteria, I know we're going to jump into it, but just, they don't hurt anything. You have to have basic lab hygiene, those sort of things. But I can go in and say, all right, I want to run this different experiment. Let's do that. Versus in somewhere that you're working with something that makes people very sick, you have to get it passed through a bunch of different committees, and there's all this pre-work, and it just feel like, go read 5 papers and come back and make a decision. It was like, come back in 3 months.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of what you said at the very beginning of how all you need is like 3 things and you can do it in your backyard or something, where it's very much like very accessible. And some of these other things, there's the bureaucracy, or I mean, for better or for worse, right? Like it is supposed to be protecting people and animals. But so when you were like looking at other labs and thinking about, do I want to do more medicine related things, or do I want to do more soil plant-based things? How did people in other labs grapple with kind of the question that you touched on earlier of valuing your research versus the lives of animals?
That's a good question. I think everyone kind of approaches it differently. I think that, and I don't know, it always comes to mind, but I went on a first date with somebody who was a cardiologist, and his view of death of people was so jarring to me.
Really?
He was just sort of like, well,
all the time, I would assume.
Yeah. And he was sort of like, and it happens. It's pretty cool when they don't die. And I was like, whoa. I think, I think some of that happens in animal research too, that once you get used to it, your body has to adapt. You can't have those emotions every single time. And so I think a lot of people just, kind of get used to it. And, I know somebody that actually got a tattoo of a lab rat after they graduated in honorarium of all of the rats that they had to kill. There's so many really interesting questions in science about, how much do you value your research, and how much do you think it's valuable to those around you? And I think asking those questions is so important.
Yeah, I think I would probably struggle with that, mainly because, I mean, not that I do anything remotely related to that, but in terms of trying to value my own research and being able to assign value on my own stuff is hard because of imposter syndrome. Like, I'm like, nobody cares about my research. Like, I'm not really making that big of a difference, but I would assume that is infinitely harder when you are dealing with things that, like, I'm just dealing with computers and stars. I'm not going to affect either of those. I mean, So I would assume it's quite different when there are lives that you are dealing with.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the major things that I got disillusioned with when I got into grad school. I think one of the hardest things that I had to come to grips with, is that science is run by people who are fallible. Science, while we might think is unbiased and it's based on a quest for truth, that's not why people are there.
Right.
And it can't be. The way science is set up right now, it's not about the truth. It is about sink or swim. It is about, if it doesn't work, you don't say anything. Like, you don't bury it. It's not about lying. It's not about hiding something, but it's rather saying, you know what, we did this experiment once, it didn't work out, we're dropping it, instead of saying like, whoa, that really interferes with our hypothesis, we should really jump in and try to figure that out. It's like, no, on to the next one. Let's figure out what finishes this paper. That's the main thing that I've heard throughout grad school is work on the paper, answer the paper, do it by figures. And, thinking about it, what is that telling people? If it doesn't fit in your paper, then don't do it. So I think coming to grips with that, and then also, and I know we're going to jump into it, but like with my specific project where I get to look at bacteria that can help plants grow, I was really excited, and I still am, but for very different reasons, to jump in and be like, okay, how can we make this even better? This is the thing that's going to save the world. These bacteria are going to replace chemicals. They're like, look at how, yeah. And
I can't wait to learn about this. This sounds awesome.
I love my project. It's really cool. But I got into it, and of course, the claims are really overhyped, and you learn about like, oh, I totally believe this paper. It looks great. And then you talk to people and they're like, well, that person has 7 retractions. What do you think now? And you're like, why are they doing science?
Wow.
And it was like, science is still like this love of my life. I think it's amazing. I love reading it. I love reading papers from like the 1950s, 60s, 70s that are, have now gone back and been validated, but they're relatively straightforward. They have one hypothesis, they test it in a few different ways, and they tell you what they did. I miss that shit.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of having to claim that you've like changed the world.
Yeah.
To publish any paper.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought about that difference in decades. Because I have noticed that I do enjoy reading papers from sort of the 80s and beforehand, far more than I do reading current papers. And I just assumed, again, imposter syndrome, I assumed that was like, oh, I just don't understand things enough, or I don't know enough. But I do think that there is probably also this element of what questions are they asking and answering?
Yeah. Or can they even be, can you even have peer evaluation of them?
Yeah.
A lot of biologists don't know how to do statistics, and we're told we have to put them on there and use a program, throw them in, and everyone says, cool, there's a star.
Yeah.
And the problem, I don't actually have like, I don't have a problem inherently with people doing what they need to do to have a job. And if they stand by that data, and if those data are true.
I don't know.
But like falsification of data, lying about it, hiding, all awful. And that's bad on its own. But the thing that really bothers me is that these things become fact. These things become the thing that we cite,
Right.
And if we're putting something in there because we say, well, we can get a higher impact journal, let's just like say it. We don't really have to test it. It's not exactly true, but it's close enough. That becomes something that someone else cites, and 2 citations in, it's just a thing that everyone knows. And I think everyone in science has come up to this where you're like, why does this exist? And everyone says, well, it just does. And you can never find a citation for it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've thought about that a lot recently, where if something is published, you take it as fact. And there is, sure, I mean, you can spend some time analyzing the paper, but more often than not, you just say, oh, okay, this paper claims this, and therefore it is true, and I'm going to keep going. And how often are you making a mistake when you do something like that?
Yeah, I was actually really impressed. So we submitted a paper, and we got it got sent back with revisions asked for, which is really good. We just have to make those revisions and send it back in. I'm laughing because when we got it back, it was really good, and then everything got shut down, and we're like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, what I was super appreciative of is that I'm using stats because it's like just something that I am so naive about, but it's so important. I have some good friends. My friend Cindy Darnell, who actually, random tangent, she was my grad student. I worked under her at University of Iowa. And then at the same time as I moved down to here in North Carolina in Chapel Hill, she moved down to North Carolina in Durham and works at Duke as a postdoc.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so she still like helps me with my papers and everything.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I went to her because she knows a lot of stats related to biology, and I was like, hey, I have all this data, we want to publish it. I don't know which stats to use. I'm being told this, I'm being told this. And she looked through it and she's like, some of this is significant, some of it's not, but it's clearly a trend. And I was like, but it doesn't have a p-value, or the p-value is shit. And she's like, that's biology, and so we turned it in, and actually we're really surprised because the reviewers came back and they were like, yeah, based on the data, these are trends, and I think that there's also that side, that if we just get more used to saying, like, this is what I found, and here's the reality. We showed all of the data. We said, here's sample A, all the different types, and then here's sample B, and there's clearly a difference, but it's not statistically significant because we only did 12 replicates of it.
That's something that I really appreciated about my advisor in undergrad. I published 2 papers with him, and his philosophy was basically like, you don't have to have this kind of game-changing result. Your job as a scientist is basically to report what you did and talk about what you learned from it. And so there was a lot less pressure actually writing the paper and trying to publish it, because it felt very honest. We weren't claiming something that was earth-shattering, because it wasn't earth-shattering, right? Like, we did this thing, part of it worked, part of it didn't, and that's the paper. And I feel like there should be more, not null results, but like more papers that kind of talk through that process,
Yeah. I mean, I think so too, or at least there should be a way for people to share completed experiments and some sort of benefit to that, add that to an H factor, or things like, I think if you review a manuscript, that should go on to some sort of scoring system. If these different pieces that are so important that they just don't get addressed. But yeah, I think one of the things that was brought up recently is just that because we don't talk about these things, we waste so much time and money by doing the obvious experiments that will never work, right?
Yeah.
That you'll read these papers and say, oh, well, based on these papers that are the main ones in the field, this is a nice experiment to do, and it doesn't work. And then you go to a conference and you talk to other people and you say,
Right.
oh, yeah, we happen to do that. And they're like, oh, you too? We spent 6 months on it.
Yeah.
And you're like, how many hours are we spending?
Yeah.
And it's not even like a let's be nice to researchers things, right? It's like we're spending government money, wasting our time because somebody wants to get their name at the top of a one-word journal. Like, fuck yourself, I don't care.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Okay, we have a couple of questions that I actually want to ask now. First, can you talk a little bit about the vocab that you used in terms of trends and leans and p-values and p-hacking? And I don't want to get too specific, just kind of quickly, and then I want to talk about what you're going to do because you just got your PhD. What's next for you?
Yeah, so I love that question about the stats, and of course I'm like, I don't know much, and then but that is the truth about science, right? Is if you say it, you got to back it up. So basically a p-value. Okay, let's say I flip a coin, 100 times. It should be around 50-50 that I get heads versus tails, and if I get, there's going to be a skew in there, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily expect exactly 50 heads, 50 tails. Right. You might get something closer to like 60-40 or, some range. You wouldn't expect to get 1 to 99. Right. And so basically a p-value is the number that says how unlikely is this by random chance. So if you flipped a quarter 100 times and you got 50-50, it would say, okay, super low p-value, or no, this would be super high p-value. This is exactly what we would expect. Our prediction, or the null hypothesis, is that you'll get 50 heads and 50 tails. And so p-value of like 1. Okay. So that's just saying that it could totally happen by random chance. It could totally happen by this null hypothesis that like there's no difference. Versus if you had something where it was like, if you're testing quarters, right? If you're like, okay, are these quarters equally balanced? And you flip the next quarter and it's 60-40. Your p-value might be, it's a little bit less than like exactly this null hypothesis. So, but it might be like p-value of 0.7 or something of like, it's still really likely that it was just chance, but like there's some possibility versus, and so you'd say, okay, this quarter's fine. But then you start getting to quarters where, yeah, it's like 5 are heads and 95 are tails. And the likelihood of that being just by random chance is really, really low. And so in that case, your p-value would be really, really low. And basically what we cut it off at is usually a p-value of 0.05. And that means that, God, it's like a 95% confidence interval. And it means essentially, I'm going to get destroyed on this.
I don't know any better. I'm just kind of nodding along, so you're good.
It basically means we're about 97 or 95% sure that this didn't happen by random chance. Now, there's still a 5% possibility that it is. There's still that possibility that with however many samples we ran, that this is just because of random chance. So going back to that quarter thing, oh my God, this is going to tie together. Oh, thank God. Okay.
Great.
Going back to that quarter thing, you know, if we expect 50-50 and we flip the coin 8 times, you know, if we got something that was 7 heads and 3 tails, that might not be super off versus if we did 100 times and we got 70 heads and 30 tails, that's a little weird. If we did 1,000 and got 700 and 300, we know something was wrong.
Right.
So the smaller our sample size, the less we're able to really distinguish, was this possibly random chance or was this actually something different than we would expect by random chance?
Got it. Okay.
So in terms of these trends, it goes back to that with the experiments we were doing, we were only able to run them. We'd take a bunch of different plants and we put bacteria on them, and we put them through different conditions. And so, but for each different condition, so each different type of sample, we were only able to run like 10 to 12 of these samples. And that was because of how many plants we had to use. And there was a bunch of different factors involved, but basically we had a really small p-value. And so what we'd expect is if we raise that up, we would say, again, that like the 3 to 7 would get raised to 30 to 70, and suddenly it would have a statistical significance. But at that size, there's so much variance between samples that it's hard to say, you know, it would be like if your baseline were quarters that were like 60-40 skewed or just like a little bit off all the time, because that's biology. So what we were able to see is that basically, if this is the middle, that all of our control samples fell below this middle line. And then when we added in terms of, we'll get into it, but they all fell below. And then all of our samples that we added in these different bacteria, they were above. So it was like very clearly a difference if you looked at all of the data, but not statistically significant based on that p-value. Got
it. Okay, got it.
All of my DMs to be either like, hi, beautiful, or like, you really screwed up statistics. You should.
I mean, you sold it, so I'm here for it. Okay, tell us what you're doing after grad school.
Yeah, so everything has kind of gotten thrown like totally on its ass, like that. So, but I'm not a big person of thinking there's a purpose or a meaning for everything, but I do think that you can make a purpose or a meaning for everything. So coming up into this in like January, I was looking at my schedule and I had a bunch of talks lined up through PhD Balance where I talked about graduate student wellness and health and, you know, just this idea of work-life balance. And so I was getting 2 or 3 talks a month and they were paid speaking events, and I'm used to getting a grad student stipend. So with a couple of books, I was going to be okay. And keeping this, it's actually a company, keeping it running is really, really important to me. And so I said, okay, like I'll make ends meet, I'll figure it out. And I'm going to do that because I wanted to be a science communicator forever, but this is the right time to jump on it. Like this is the momentum's there, let's go.
Yeah.
Of course, all of this happened. And luckily my talks got pushed. So I have a lot of talks now still in October, but I mean, I couldn't just keep going with that. And it was really hard. And that's part of the reason I started doing that, like, ask me I'm a scientist thing, was just so that I could do anything.
Yeah.
Obviously not making money off of that, but just like, I don't know what I'm doing in the future, so let me just do something I enjoy, and I miss talking about science, and I've been trained as a science communicator. So let's just get back into the habit of doing that. It was something I used to really like in the past. And so I'm super excited. I can't, I can't say
Yes.
right now because like paperwork hasn't been signed. But I am getting onboarded for a job that's here in the Triangle. And but it's a really good thing. It's a part-time job, and like, I'm super excited because it's obviously working from home, but that seems like it's going to continue. But it's with a company that works with biotech startup companies, which is my absolute dream, like working with companies to help figure out how they can be talking with the public, how they can be working on getting themselves funding. So that's going to start after I graduate, but that's like a part-time job. So I'm going to be doing,
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations.
it is thanks to my network, like 100%. Obviously, like we've all worked on stuff, but I have a really good friend, Marcus, who is like, we're clearly very good friends on LinkedIn. He's a local recruiter, and we met through social media, but he helped me fix up my resume, and he was all about like getting me used to saying nice things about myself, or rather talking about myself the way that I would if I was trying to get a friend a job. And then I did this business program, and that helped connect me with a bunch of people. And then there's been so many people who are so generous with their time. I could probably just like sit here and list them off and have a great time, but that are available for me to ask. So I think that, I don't know, people always say like networking is so important.
Yeah.
It is. I think it is so important, but I just like that. That's always kind of felt weird to me because it's like, they're people. You're not networking. Like, you're not a fisherman. You're not out there like looping your strings around nodes and being like, all right, now all of you are mine. It's
Yeah.
I think it's more of like people matter, having relationships and having people that you support and you lean on.
Yes.
Like, that's what it is. It's not some sort of network. That's what results from it.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know if it's word mincing or what, but I completely agree. Like, the
Yeah.
people that I interact with are people that I care about, and I hope they care about me, and like that's what matters. It's not getting like a list of people in various places to kind of give you a leg up or give you opportunities or something like that.
No, no, exactly. And it's also like, you have to enjoy your life at the same
Yeah.
time. So if you're spending your entire life just trying to know every single person in the field you're interested in, are you actually going to build meaningful relationships with any of those people? Are you going to have people that celebrate when you do get something that comes in, or that are like willing to give you time if something bad happens? And otherwise, what's the point of
Yeah.
knowing about names?
Yeah. Um, so two things that I'm really curious about asking you about are your research and our PhD balance. I know you gave like a little summary about what it is, but just to be explicit, can you give like a 1-sentence elevator pitch for what that is to people?
Shit. Oh, shit. Yeah, well, our mission right now is to create spaces where graduate students can learn from shared experience. And the meaning of that is that right now, when people go through graduate school, they're kind of told like, this is your path to find. There's nothing else like it. Like, the journey is where it is. And
Yeah.
yeah, and what it ends up being is like, there's a lot of input that would be really helpful. And I think sometimes it's from, people having that kind of survivor's bias of like, well, I did it, so should you.
Yes.
And there's also the side that's kind of lazy, that it's hard to manage people. It's hard to give people sound advice. And so
I
I guess,
also want to add to that. I think that there is an element of elitism where people think I got a PhD and therefore for you to get a PhD, you have to struggle and figure it out just as hard as I did. And I'm convinced that the entire like aspect of getting a PhD is navigating this system that nobody has any like direction or specific benchmarks other than you take your prelim and your qual at Berkeley at least, which is ridiculous.
Preach. Keep going.
Sorry, I mean,
no, that's like where I get my fuel. No, absolutely. I mean, if one thing that I hope that we take away from with this pandemic is like nobody does well without some certainty in the future. Nobody does well if they feel like no matter what they do, they're not going to get anywhere. No one does well if they have no guidance. This is not like a whiny, bratty grad student thing. People lose their shit having to work with no guidance, no expectations, no goals, no feeling of future success. And that's what grad students are asked to do oftentimes for 4 years. And just, it's so fascinating is a word to me. You can talk to scientists and you can say, like, if I said to a scientist, I have this new tool, I have this new experiment that will be 10 times faster than what you're doing right now. And it's going to be easier and it's going to be more sustainable. You have to learn it. Like you're gonna have to put a little effort in, but it's worth it. They would learn it so fast. They would start writing that grant as I was talking.
Yeah.
They wouldn't care if it was different or new, or they wouldn't be like, oh, well, that's not how we did it 10 years ago. Well, of course not. It's fucking science. Like we're learning all the time.
Yeah.
But if you go to them and you say, here's how to be a more effective manager, or here's how to have empathy towards your students, or here's how to not be so racist. Like, here's some examples of implicit bias and things like that. It's often like, I'm too busy. It's all right. I get it. It's important. It's so important. I agree. It's so important.
Yeah.
To do fucking anything. And what we know is that people are not, they're just not as productive when they're struggling, you know, and it's, if, I don't know, I wish that academic advisors, and there's some really amazing ones out there. And I think that that's really important, is that we sometimes have this idea that, oh, academic advisors are bad and people get into there and they're just expected to sweat it out. But I also talk to a lot of people who have advisors who are mentors, who are managers, who set expectations. It is possible. Those people are actively trying to be managers versus a lot of people are just like, I'm a scientist. Like you said, I did it. So if you want a PhD, just keep on keeping on. So anyway, PhD balance is the idea that not everyone's going to be supportive. I have, one of the things that I say to people when I go and give talks is that everyone should talk to somebody, but nobody should talk to everybody. The biggest question I get this question every single time, is either how do I talk to my advisor, or how do I know if I can talk to my advisor, or I know my advisor isn't supportive, what do I do? And it's just, you know, it's a reality.
There are a lot of people like that out there. There are a lot of people. I would say that's like the vast majority of people do not have good supportive advisors.
No, and I think that a lot more advisors want that. They actually want to know how to do it, but they're terrified, and the universities give them absolutely no support, no training.
There's no incentive. There's no incentive on their like behalf to do it.
No, not at all. Unless you take that time though to read those papers and be like, my lab is going to be 20% more effective.
Right.
Dealing with this, so maybe I should take 3 days a year and focus on it.
Because
numbers. But like seriously, my personal trainer, like I have a trainer who for like workouts and things, and he works at I go to
everyone go follow Susanna on Instagram. She posts some boss Instagram workout stuff. It's cool. You inspire me.
Well, and go follow my trainer because he's but he's required to take more training on like personal management and mental health than any professor. Wow. Like a CrossFit coach, he's not a CrossFit coach, but like CrossFit coaches or yoga instructors or like fucking Mary Kay salespeople get more training in how to manage other people.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I had a year off between college and grad school. And even I, as like this associate employee, had to go to seminars about leading people and being part of a team and all of that. And there was an HR department, right, who was responsible for climate and things like that. And back to the personal trainer thing, my trainer, I had a trainer when I was training for surgery, and he literally several times sat me down before we worked out and we did breathing exercises together to decrease stress. And he was like, you need to do this. And I was like, why is this not a thing that we talk about in like normal day-to-day life aside from exercise?
Yo, I have the most specific story for this. And I love that your trainer was like, you need to decrease stress. Like, let's
It
do
was
that.
amazing. I was like, oh, you realize that I have like crippling anxiety and I want to like, yeah, no.
You're like, and that's why I'm here. So I can like,
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, great. Glad you can read that.
so I started going to this personal trainer, and it's been fantastic. And like the short background of that is that I dealt with some eating disorders, and so I had to take basically a whole year off of working out, and
Wow.
that sucked.
That's really hard. Wow.
Yeah. And then I wanted to get back into it, but I didn't really know how to do that in a healthy way, in a way that wasn't like, can I lose weight or like body image stuff. So I wanted to go to somebody who would just teach me how to do things well, and I could lift more weight, and I could like have someone else be managing my progress and not having me think about it. So one, we talked about that in our first session. He was like, what do I need to know? And I was like, this. And he's like, okay, this is how we're going to adjust it and moving on. He wasn't like, well, I don't think you should be at the gym anymore.
That's such a good example. That is such a good example, because if you go, I mean, not all advisors, but I know quite a few faculty members, if you go to a problem, they respond and say like, well, maybe you're not cut out for it.
That has happened.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's happened to me too, for sure.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So, but like the biggest thing, so we had this first session, it was great. And I was like, all right, I think this is awesome. The next day he sends me a text message and he says, hey, Susanna, great work yesterday. Enjoyed a day. It's your day off and you totally earned it. And I was like, I have been waiting for 5 years.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
And it's not anyone's, it's not anyone's specific fault. It's just something we don't teach. Like
I have talked about that so much in therapy, of like telling myself that it's okay to take time off. Like that is so foreign to me. I do not like, nobody taught that to me.
Yeah.
At all.
No, and it's like most of the professors I talk to, and I get to talk to a lot, and I'm super lucky for that. Most of them say, I wish I could do more. I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I don't actually think it's a professor issue. There's some shitty ones, but like they're not given the tools that they need either. And the number of professors I talk to that are like, I just want to help more, they're so underwater as well. They're dealing with all of these different things as well.
Right.
So basically PhD Balance was set up because of that like the institutions are not always on their students' sides. The professors are not always able to support people, but graduate students have learned a lot. And if we give them these spaces, whether physical or online, that they can share their experiences, things that are kind of more tangible, like making posters or like how to interview, those sort of things, versus the other side of how to deal with when a family member dies while you're in grad school, or how to deal with an abusive advisor, that grad students know a lot and we want to share a lot. And if we can actually pool our resources, it helps the next set of students. Like they don't have to learn all of those things completely on their own.
Right. Yeah. Having resources for both sets of people and having trainings is really important. I also think that having people be engaged is really important, right? Like I can preach to some faculty member, for example, who is not providing the support that I would like them to provide all day, but it doesn't matter if they're not receptive to learning. And so that's why I think that point that you made earlier about incentivizing faculty is really poignant. And sometimes that is, your lab will be more efficient if you have better support for your grad students. Like sometimes it needs to be that I don't know, mathy, sciencey, where it's like, oh, you get a direct return on this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, academia is faced with a lot of pressures. And at the end of the day, a lot of times professors have to look at it and say, I only have so many hours in the day. Am I going to spend it getting grant money so I can keep these people employed? Or am I going to spend it trying to figure out how to navigate feelings and motivation that I've never spent time on before? And it's fair. But if you can then go back to them and say, actually, this is going to help you get more grant funding. It's a bit of an investment of time, but you're going to be more productive. People are going to be more productive in their time. They're less likely to leave. You know, they're not going to negatively affect the people around them.
Right.
I think that you can tie it back into those main motivations of like, you want to run a successful lab. The people running the lab need to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, change of pace. Tell me about your research and tell me some of the most fun / weird things that have happened while you do your research.
Ooh. Okay, so my research, I study how bacteria stick to plant roots, and it's really fun. So basically, if I say probiotics, what do you think of?
To avoid tummy aches after I take antibiotics.
Perfect. Awesome. Not probiotics, but also I'll send you papers on why that actually makes it worse. But
really?
Actually, it totally ties in. So they did it. Okay. Probiotics, right, are good bacteria. So our guts, our bodies, all of our skin is covered in bacteria. We have a bunch of bacteria in our intestines, and they help us take up nutrients. They're really important so that we don't get infected, like some of those things like C. diff that we talked about earlier. We basically need this like natural population, otherwise invaders will come in. The problem is that it's not just like one type of bacteria. You know, you're not like 7 types of bacteria. There's thousands of types of bacteria in your mouth right now. And the numbers on like teeth, dental bacteria is horrific. Like 7 types of bacteria.
We have our guests. Guys, if you want to unmute and unmute your video, I don't know. Hello.
What's going on, everybody? Yeah, what can I say?
Yeah!
You know, I mean,
hello. Oh my God, I'm so happy.
I took a quick flight to my summer home for quarantine. So
a quick flight on your private jet.
Yeah.
Okay, so introduce yourselves, please.
You want to go ahead first, Imogene?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Imogen Cancelari. If you didn't catch the last 2 weeks episodes with Drunk Science with Sarafina, I was on the last 2 weeks and I'm just here hanging out again. I am a conservation biologist and I study carnivore genetics.
Hell yeah.
Woohoo, that's awesome.
You look gorgeous, Imogen.
Thank you.
And what are you drinking?
I am drinking an old fashioned.
Fuck yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Nice. I've noticed that you guys, Sarafina and Susanna, haven't had a drink in a while, no?
I've been grilling Susanna.
Yeah, I know that to say. Serafina looks like she could use a little drink.
I'm sipping my iced wine.
All right. Well, you were sipping your beer on my podcast last night, so you know I gave you the free pass.
I mean, now I'm like, all right, I gotta kick it up a notch. All right, Dylan, introduce yourself. Who are you?
Who am I? State yourself and your intentions. I am Dylan. I'm at Inertial Observer on Twitter, without the third E, the second E, an observer. And
like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I used to, like a week ago, I'm super into making math animations. Love doing math and physics animations as well. I do a lot of shit posting on my alt account, Mr. Nomer.
Yeah.
It's funny about 1 in every 3 tweets.
Lately I've been though where I'm like, damn, this is good content.
Lately I've been dunking on Stephen Wolfram, for his quote unquote theory of everything, but fair enough. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, I don't know why people listen to me, but oh, and I have a podcast, YouTube.
Yes.
So yeah, it's Physics After Hours. Search it, love it, and drink it up.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Dylan is also in California.
In a mansion? Is that like
yeah.
Do you want to explain?
Is
that
it? Yeah. I mean, this is my summer home that I usually don't go to. But during quarantine, I'm staying here. Just because, like, I don't want to be cooped up like in dorms forever. So I'm just using all my Patreon money to
fund your gigantic mansion.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't fall for it.
Let's
fall for what?
Go around in a circle and do pronouns really fast. So Susanna, if you want to start, then me, Imogene, and Dylan.
Sure. So I'm Susanna, she, her, hers.
Sarafina, she, her, hers.
I'm Imogene, she, her, hers.
I'm Dylan, and I'm gonna break the pattern. He, him, his.
Nice.
Oh yeah, and happy Bi and Sci Day.
Yeah. You had a great post. Where are your dogs?
They're downstairs because they would be here all the time.
I mean,
I'm actually
don't understand why that's a bad thing, Susanna.
Oh no, it is a bad thing because what you don't know from here is that I am sitting on my floor. So I have a desk that's on the floor. And it's really great and it's good for my back. Like I'm against the wall and everything, and it takes up no space.
Desk is on your. What is that? I don't get it.
I've heard of a standing desk, but not one that's literally like
the alternative.
On a floor.
Yeah, no, it's I don't even know what this thing is supposed to be, but yeah, it's super nice. It's like up in the corner. I'll post a picture of something of it like up on Instagram afterwards.
Cool.
Yeah, but like the dogs are at this height, and so.
They're perfect.
I would be missing all of my makeup from here.
Right. Because they're helping.
Comet went at my face earlier today and just like looked at everything and I was like, God damn it. Like, I love you, but damn it. Yeah, I just like
I just want to, as a man, just be like, just applaud everybody who's wearing makeup, during quarantine, not like breaking routine. Is that like, I'm curious because I know like a lot of more people do that than I would have anticipated.
You see comment?
So yeah, I see you're stealing the attention from
Sorry.
my very, very good question. Is that like just like a sense of like, is it like just like a cup of coffee in a way? Like or do you wear makeup during quarantine or do you not? Was I mistaken?
I was really committed the first 2 weeks to getting up in the morning, following a routine, brushing my hair, showering, put on like work clothes. And it's really just like completely skyrocketed. I'm wearing the same pajama pants for like 5-6 days in a row.
Yeah, same. I didn't know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, you're not on. The first thing that went was definitely the makeup, then it was the hair brushing, and it's all just, so it's like, what is it, 9, it's 10 o'clock on the East Coast right now. I worked out and I took a shower, and then it's just like time to be a slob with like a naked face. So I put like a whole new face on. So it's a special occasion.
Damn right it is.
I love that. Yeah, no, this is good. I'll drink to that in my summer home.
What are you drinking?
Me? Tequila.
Good choice.
That's tequila. That's just straight cloudy tequila.
Okay, you were drinking.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Susanna, call me out. Susanna, call me out. I like it. Okay, no, it's not just straight tequila. It's tequila with a low calorie mix. Because hashtag this body don't maintain itself. It is, I think a Cuervo mix.
Oh.
I mean, it's just enough to sweeten it up to where it's not straight tequila.
Okay.
Solid.
All
I
right,
appreciate the call out. That was good.
let's get
It
back
was really cloudy. I'm sorry. I was like,
No, I respect it.
all right, Susanna, tell us about your bacteria stuff that you love and why it's changing the world, which apparently it is.
Well, and we can also go back to the thing of like taking probiotics.
Yes,
So the idea is that these probiotics are helpful bacteria that help whatever their host is. So the bacteria that live in us, we are their host. We're like their little house that they live in and they get all their stuff from. And in exchange, we get something from them. And plants actually have the same thing. But where we think of a lot of our good bacteria as being in our gut, plants don't have a gut. They take up all their nutrients and water and things like that from their roots. And so that's the microbiome that we're really interested in. Other scientists are really interested in other parts of their microbiome, but the roots seem to be one of the most important spaces for these plant microbe interactions. And the idea is that just like with humans, some of these bacteria can take care of the plants in terms of like fighting off the bad bacteria or helping to scavenge nutrients in the soil, even protecting them physically against like drought, all those different things. And so my research, there's some bacteria that we call PGPR, plant growth promoting rhizobacteria, or now like plant growth promoting bacteria. So PGPB. So these bacteria have been shown to help the plant in some sort of way.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Is that in manure?
Yeah, it can be. So it can be in manure. It can be in, so basically different types of bacteria in different soils, in different like compost.
I see. So it's whatever like helps like this kind of life that we would call a plant grow.
Exactly.
Right
That
on.
like natural stasis. And so going back to though what Sarafina was talking about when I asked about probiotics and saying like, oh, I take them if I take antibiotics so I don't get as much of a stomach ache. That can be true, like that can help. But the idea is that you take probiotics because you want to get your system back to normal, right? But probiotics usually have like 3 to 15 types of bacteria. And they've actually done some studies where they've shown that people who take antibiotics and then do nothing get back to their regular levels of microbiota, or like the different members of their microbiome, the bacteria and things, than people who take antibiotics and then a probiotic. Because basically,
Really?
Oh.
So is it a scam?
so that's the thing. And
Cutting
so,
to the chase.
The $30 bottle of probiotics that I have in my kitchen right
Yeah,
now.
like, do I just not take them
Funny.
anymore?
well, again, and the question is like, what is good, right? Is our normal level of bacteria, different kinds, good or not? All we know on that study is like, if you take antibiotics and you take a probiotic, it might take you longer to get back to your normal microbiome. I hope it's not a scam, because my entire project is basically that same idea, but for plants. And that we know some of these bacteria are really helpful. These are like the probiotics. And so my project was trying to figure out how could we get these helpful bacteria to stay with the plant for longer.
Okay.
That's really cool.
So how do you do it? What do you do?
I have actually a dumber question.
Okay.
Oh God, this is really bad. So antibiotics and probiotics.
Mhm.
What's the difference?
That's awesome.
It's a great question. I love that.
Yes.
It's really good. It's really good. So antibiotics just means like against life, it's going to kill something. And usually we talk about it in terms of antibiotics are usually the things that kill bacteria. So antibiotics, but generally against bacteria, which is very specific and it's dumb. Probiotics, it's so fucked. Okay. It's such a good question because it's like, probiotics are the living parts that can make other things healthy. So in terms of like probiotics are usually bacteria that help. So probiotic is like,
Okay.
yeah, a prebiotic is
there was another one.
uh-huh.
God.
Yeah. A prebiotic is the thing that helps the probiotics live. So you take so you'd be like, oh, I want to eat a lot of kale or something because it's kind of like a prebiotic because it helps certain types of bacteria.
Right.
So not a stupid question, actually very difficult.
Okay, so the I'm sorry. I asked a question, so your turn, Imogene.
No, go ahead and finish it. No, you're totally good.
Well, I kind of forgot it now.
So when you say, I'll jump in. So when you say prebiotics help the probiotics do their work, is that related to, do you mean like in terms of like digestion?
Yeah, generally. So when people talk about prebiotics, it's usually things like I eat a lot of fiber because it's a prebiotic. So it's
that's a good example.
yeah, it's going to support these healthy bacteria, the probiotics.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
because antibiotics are the things that kill bacteria. They're not like the bad bacteria.
Right.
So the probiotics don't need to kill anything to fix stuff, I guess is my I mean, like, or do they kind of kill things a little bit, but like they're not like out there killing shit, as a job. It's just like, a kind of a nighttime gig.
It's a side hustle.
Yeah.
Like casually murdering things.
Yeah.
Light murder.
It's actually so
Imogene sips.
No, it's so yeah, it can be all over the place. And that's what's really funny about this stuff. So again, like plant growth promoting bacteria is the most vague thing ever. That's essentially like telling somebody something is healthy, like what is that?
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's a big umbrella.
Huge umbrella. So some of these actually kill other bacteria or other fungi. Some of these will just kind of produce some stuff that
I think I see the motivation now. The idea is that it, at the end of the day, is it doesn't actually seem like they're in exclusive classes, right? I mean, one can be a little bit about this and that, but
yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on.
That's really cool.
Okay, so your thesis, can you give an elevator pitch for that?
Yeah, I had to write a fucking like 1 paragraph abstract. That was so stretching.
Summarize your life in 5.3 sentences.
Yeah. And also we're gonna come back and tell you it's still not good enough.
Right, yeah. Also, what is p-value?
Wait. I tuned in earlier. I know what p-value is now.
You don't use that. All right. So my thesis is that this one specific bacterium, Bacillus subtilis, which lives all over the soil, but can also help a lot of plants grow. It's super awesome, but doesn't stay with the plants for very long. And so we thought maybe we can find it on plants in some situations. Maybe other bacteria that really like to stick to plants can help Bacillus stay with the plant. So can we take this beneficial bacteria and find it some friends, and then they all stay with the plant for longer and they can have better effects?
I love that.
That's so flipping cool, man.
It is.
Everything is better with friends.
Everything is
wow.
Well, and there seems like there's so many systems, obviously. I mean, you've already talked about a bajillion systems, but like the agriculture industry could usually benefit from that. And the only reason I know to say that is because when I used to live in Montana, like the best berry in the world is called the huckleberry.
Oh,
and if you don't know what it is, go to the mountains this summer, walk there and find some berries and eat them. But the problem is that they can't be cultivated by agricultural practices because of the rye starts with an RH, and you already said, and it's some like beneficial bacteria in the root system that they can't.
Oh, arboriculture fungi?
Yes.
Okay.
Yo, nice. That's so sick that she just like knew that. That's so sick.
It's wild grown. It's really cool.
It's so cool. I love what I study. But yeah, and actually going back to that thing of being like, yeah, I love this, but also like, whoa, research is kind of weird. Is that, and going to Imogene's point, is that like a lot of companies are already selling Bacillus and Bacillus subtilis specifically as this really awesome, it helps in the lab, and here's a really cool picture of a tomato plant, and here's like a sad picture without Bacillus. But
wow.
Yeah, so we actually started with that, and we're like, that's cool. Like, let's study the interactions of Bacillus with this plant. And we started working on this system, and we're like, why is it falling off? Like, it's broken. And we talked to other people, and they're like, oh yeah, no, unless you add a bunch of sugar, it like doesn't really work the way that we think it should. And so luckily my boss was like, yeah, do what you want. So we rolled with it. And instead of just like picking another bacteria or saying like, okay, we're going to add a bunch of sugar, which I didn't feel good about. There's not a bunch of like sucrose in the soil, so why study it that way? We went with it, and we're like, all right, let's say this doesn't work, then what? And we found papers that suggested it didn't work the way it was advertised. Since then, we've talked to other people who have, again, corroborated. And we were able to find some bacteria that were originally found with plants. We were able to take some of those and we mix them together with Bacillus subtilis. Bacillus will stay with the plant for longer in our experiment. So it's like,
that's so cool.
That's
yeah,
really
it's still really tiny. But I feel good about it because it was honest. You know, like, I don't know that it's ever going to matter. I don't know if it's ever going to be used or if in a year someone's going to show that everything was wrong. But like, at least I can honestly look at the three of you and be like, yeah, this is the best information we had. And it's not most publishable because it would have been a lot easier to just go with what everyone else was saying. But we tried to say something that people hadn't yet.
Did you find any sort of not confrontation, but people being like, well, just add sugar, just do it, and trying to convince you of that, and you were like, nah, like, I want to do it the right way?
It sounds like the way I make cookies. I just say, just add sugar, sugar, and then
copious amounts of sugar.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's just sugar.
What could go wrong?
Nothing, to be honest, except a little gut, but whatever.
It's fine. It's fine. Healthy.
You got that clotted tequila for that.
Yeah.
I do, yeah. Cheers to that.
I really wish you would just like shot back at me and been like, nah, bitch, it's tequila. Like, what?
I mean, like the thing is that, I mean, on some level, like, I know that anybody who is watching this would know that that's bullshit. Like, there's no actual tequila that's just pure, like, Gatorade color. Shout out to Sarafina Nance, who only has Gatorade left in the fridge.
My God, you guys, it's so good though. Hydrate or dehydrate. No, it's great.
Wait.
I know.
But then, like, I just would have come off like as like this dude, but like, yeah, it's just
That
tequila.
moment, it never happened. Also, no one has commented on my Topo Chico.
I noticed the Topo.
Is that alcoholic?
No.
It's the best water.
Boo.
So good. It
is that water?
Sparkling water from Texas.
Oh, wow.
From Austin. No,
Awesome.
from Monterey, Mexico. But I first had it in Austin.
I didn't know that.
Everywhere in Texas. I know, Susanna. I was like, that was a love.
I was about to say, Texas doesn't make water. They don't have water factories.
That was a problem. But
They don't have aquifers either.
But
also, to be fair, I feel like we've incepted the idea of Austin, Texas, because in this chat we have said Austin, Texas like 17 times, like between this, Jack, and like.
It's just
I
like the
love
backup
Austin.
citation.
I've
At
had-
Tito's, let's go. Let's make another drink. All
No,
right.
I went to the Tito's distillery right outside of Austin. They have this huge bus,
Was it good?
and you can go.
Wait,
and
was it really from Austin this time? Like, I feel like we're
Yeah,
like,
Tito's is
okay.
it's in Dripping Springs, which is right outside of Austin. Hell yeah.
Oh, wow. I just got cited.
Yeah.
And they have these like amazing frozen vodka drinks. They are like slushy vodka, and they're
Oh.
incredible. I mean,
It's
just
slurpy
Okay, I'll try it. If it's in Austin, I'll try it.
no.
I
it's
do
good.
miss the breweries in Texas. Austin has a lot of
No.
fantastic breweries. Houston
God,
does
the
too.
breweries. Yeah, no,
And
I
tacos.
like that. The tacos, the breweries, and the live music.
I saw that, Susanna.
House of Blues. House of Blues. That's not Houston.
Struggling.
What's everybody's favorite brewery if you're a beer drinker?
Like a specific place? Or like a specific type of beer?
Ooh, no, like a specific, yeah, let's do both. Like a specific brewery that
Oh,
you'd like to
both.
go
Oh,
to,
God.
and then like your favorite beer to like crack open at home.
I mean, I can go easy on this because I know her off the head. I mean, like, Dogfish Head and Dogfish Head.
Oh no.
I'm in Delaware with
Yes,
Dogfish Head.
let's go. My grandparents are in Delaware. You should go give them some flowers.
I'm in Newark. I'm in Bear. Where are they?
Oh, they're in Bethany Beach.
We just tell the whole internet where I am.
Yeah, right.
It's only a
I'm
small
inside of a
state.
bear.
It's okay. They can't leave the
Fine.
country.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they can if
JK.
they're crazy enough.
They're down at the
That's-
beach. Okay, it's a pretty time of the year right now.
Yeah.
The horseshoe crabs are going to start spawning next month. And there's going to be a lot of horseshoe crab sex and horseshoe crab eggs all over the beach. And then the migratory
baby.
shorebirds are going to come in and eat all of it. Well, not all of it, but a lot
Oh,
of it.
wow.
even better.
The
Even better.
problem with Zoom is that you can't make eye contact with specific people. So like I felt like Susanna and I were just like having a moment and not at all. Like
Oh, yeah.
we were all just watching the same video.
Oh yeah. Well, like, how are you not going to respond to horseshoe crab sex.
You got it though.
Supposed to
Did
pretend
you guys see Sarah, what is her last name? Who posts, she's the person who does Drunk Science. And she posts
Fina?
what is it?
Is her last name Fina?
Oh my God. I didn't mean Drunk Science. I meant Skype with a scientist. I'm drunk.
Sarah McAnulty. Yeah,
About
yeah.
the crabs last night.
Oh my God, that was the funniest thing.
It was insane. Mods, can you please post this Twitter thread?
Yeah, you got to. First of all,
oh my God.
Why are there crabs in the airport? That's a story, but her story, like I cried listening to that. Oh my gosh.
He was like, they're still discovering dead crabs, like mummified crabs. I was like,
And if you know Sarah, it is so on brand.
God, it was
Mummified.
amazing.
I'm gonna text her right now and tell her that we're talking about her.
Please,
We should
that was amazing.
you should get her in the chat.
Yeah, well, yes, we should. I don't know how to make that happen at this point, but yes.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so Susanna, tell us one of your favorite stories about doing
Wait, what's your favorite beer?
Oh, God.
Oh, she thought that she slid
Cute.
out like a sock on a wet foot.
I don't have a specific.
Boo.
Okay, you know what? No, I do. I lied. Shiner.
If you say Yingling, I'm gonna be
Shiner
upset.
is my favorite beer.
Shiner is your favorite beer?
Shiner Bock.
Always go for a Shiner. That like makes me feel like I'm back home. I love Shiner.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Everyone likes Yingling in this part of the world. I think it's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean it's from Pennsylvania, right? Originally.
Yeah, it's not. What is it? Not west of the Mississippi, or you can't buy it.
Oh, no.
west of the Mississippi?
Oh, I don't know if you can't. I don't know the weird fucking land laws, but like, like I just like know it's like from Pennsylvania.
Sarah says Yingling is fine.
Sarafina or
You did.
Sarah?
Sarah.
Sorry, wrong Sarah.
Well,
She's
okay.
just Pottsville.
I
It
see.
says Yingling is fine. All right, it's fine.
Hey, I want to.
I'll stand on this hill. It's not fine.
I want to hear a science story, Susanna.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, science stories. Right. Yes.
Wait, we have to cheers first.
Oh wait. Oh, can I go grab like another handle of tequila?
Yeah, you can.
Her handle.
Or fifth, I think is what it is.
Still, whatever. Yeah, go get it.
Yeah.
Whatever
Okay.
you're talking
Shit.
about.
Don't get lost in your mansion. That I genuinely thought was a real backdrop. when-
No, okay, so
Yes,
my
it is.
friend
Hang on.
just texted me and was
We're back
like,
in 20
the
minutes
guy
'cause
who
my
bought
kitchen's
left
so
in the
big.
kitchen. And I was like, no.
I'm embarrassed.
Does he have like a green screen? Is that what's
Yeah,
happening?
so he went to Home Depot and bought like 10 yards of green felt
Huh.
and made a green screen. And he
Wow,
just-
that's very committed.
I know.
Okay, yeah, go home, take the time off. It's fine. Yeah, I know. I'm just talking about Butler. Sorry.
What?
It usually takes me at least like 10 to 15 minutes to like get through the kitchen because it's so big.
Yeah.
But I had my butler go grab, he had it for me and I just told him to have the night off.
A nice guy.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. Jeeves.
Jeez.
That's not his real name. You just make him like go by that at your house.
Yeah, no, his real name's Carl. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So we do need another cheers. Serafina, you got another drink? Another drink.
Yeah, I have more wine. Imogene, last week I drank an entire bottle of wine during a whole bottle. And when I texted you, I texted Imogene the next morning and I was like, I'm dead.
At like 7 a.m. though, I was impressed. I mean, it was 3 hours later my time. I was like, can't be that bad at 7
It
a.m.
was so bad. I was so hungover.
That's the problem with aging, is that for those of you who are young and watching this right now, and you drink a lot, you party, you sleep the next day, that doesn't happen when you're our age. You wake up at like 6:30, 7:30. That just means you get to hate yourself longer.
This is
It's all downhill.
This is
That's
No,
why I
I
own a
said-
humidifier. Yeah.
Get hungover as I'm drinking. It's amazing.
yeah, like I already have a headache and I'm like, maybe I should just drink more.
I feel
Wait,
great.
I'm in my 30s, so I don't know how old you guys are. Have you guys started having the 2-day hangovers?
No, I haven't reached that point yet, but that sounds truly horrible.
Not bad.
Sounds like a challenge.
No. Okay.
Don't accept it, Dylan. Don't
2 days.
accept it.
Here I come.
Just drink a lot
Productivity
of water.
out the window.
I just
Let's
want to
see.
always call you inertial observer without an E, like without a third E, but the second E in observer. Like that's
Yeah.
always, you should only go by that. It's
Okay,
way-
fair enough. So
I'm never gonna forget it. I did just follow you on Twitter though, because
I know I followed you back.
Aw.
You didn't have to, but
Making
like,
friends. I love
You
it.
know, I was like, like if she's cool enough for Sarafina, she's cool enough for me.
that's pretty much what I've said too.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have time to scroll through each other's feeds here.
All right, guys, we're cheersing.
Oh, cheers. Yeah.
Should
I'm
we
just like
cheers
drinking.
to?
Oh, wait, here we go.
What are we cheersing to? We did love first. Can we do friendship now?
Oh my god.
Friendship at a distance, maybe. Who knows?
Why is this
Oh,
merging?
it doesn't change.
We should cheers to the fact that dogs are really good friends and we don't have to socially distance from them right now.
Yes.
So let's cheers to
that is
dogs.
A
There's
good
the dogs.
cheers to dogs.
Cheers to dogs.
Everyone.
Woof woof.
I forgot a coaster.
That one was for my first dog I ever had, who is now deceased. Rest in peace, Penny.
Oh.
She was a boxer.
Is it
R.I.P. Penny.
Taylor wants to get a new dog. I think we might be doing it.
Second
How
one.
old is Comet?
He's 3.5.
You should call the second one Meteor.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, that's a bit too many syllables. You could call him like
The thing is,
Nova.
I really like the name
Nova's
Nova.
a good one.
But
Nova's a
the
good one.
problem is when you're when you're training dogs and you say like no, I don't
Yeah, that'd be hard.
that up.
Oh.
I know.
He'd have
You're
a
like
complex.
Nova,
He'd have a
and he's
complex.
like just so fucking like in the like you're just gonna mess with the kid's head. Poor guy.
I
Yeah,
know,
sure.
it's sad. It's a great name. Okay, all right. Science, Susanna.
Oh, that's good. I mean, my friend found out that my dogs Hermes and Athena respond to herpes and abreva.
Oh no. You know what I would name my dogs? I would name them Phobos and Deimos. The moons
Why?
because the moons of Mars, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right.
I
My
don't like-
boyfriend is over there like horrified at me. He's like, Mars. I'm like, what do you want? What you saying? I
It's
don't
Phobos
know.
and Deimos. I think they're Mars.
Mars.
I'm pretty sure it's Mars.
is that how you say it?
Phobos and Deimos. Yeah, it's fear and terror.
It's Deimos, right?
Yeah, Deimos.
Oh,
Phobos for fear, like phobia. Deimos, as in Hermes or Hummer.
oh, good. Glad we clarified that.
Nailed it. Cool.
I just
feel-
have to
feel
say,
like-
I feel like I'm at a bar right now, and it is a great feeling.
Yes.
This feels like actual humans.
I know.
True.
Like, I actually have a social life.
That's the greatest compliment I've gotten in quarantine. You feel
I
like
wouldn't do
an
that
actual human.
in real life.
I took my dogs out today and I ran into actual humans and
Oh, God.
like, the first thing I thought, which is the weirdest thing I've thought in a long time, I was gonna say everyone, that's not true, but I was like, there's so many limbs because I'm used to my dogs that have the same number of limbs, but smaller.
Um,
And I don't have a full length mirror. I'm just, why are humans so much limbs?
yeah, we all these things.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Oh,
That's
that's
really
good.
Though
good.
I have been like
That
in
is good.
isolation since I started writing my dissertation. So that's the thing. I had just
When is
finished.
that? When is that?
So I started writing my dissertation in like January-ish.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the
And so
middle.
I like finished it at the start of March. I think I turned it in like the
Oh my
very
God. You must have been so excited to like go out and interact with people. And it was like, sucks for you.
I was like, no.
Not happening.
but I think it was good because I got used to this a lot more and I was like, all right, I got my little desk, I got these things.
I
So
have noticed that like I was done recovering from surgery. I mean done, but like I was done recovering majorly from surgery at the beginning of January. So yes, there was a little bit of a break, but I'm kind of used to staying home and like
yeah.
not doing a lot. So it hasn't been too jarring. Whereas if I hadn't had 2 surgeries this year, I bet it would be a lot harder. Yeah.
The sweetest bright side I've ever heard. Oh, well, this is nice. I'm like, oh my God. No.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a desk before, because like I just moved from the place I used to live was a master bedroom, but now I was like, I don't need all that. And so I downsized aside from my summer home. Yeah. And so that's why I put the external cash, or extraneous cash, my apologies.
It's better than a stock market right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's so volatile. And so I just said, just put like 10% of what I have on a summer home. Fine. I'll go there during quarantine.
Right,
and
that's reasonable.
yeah. So that's what I did. I came here and I didn't have a desk because I'm a simple man at the end of the day. And I know it doesn't look like it, but I didn't design this house. I hired somebody, and they're a bit kind of posh and whatever. And so in my dorm, not dorm, let's say apartment, I don't have an actual desk because everywhere I went was sold out during quarantine. And I got like the desk that you have, or the kind of table that you get for like family picnics, when you have the people
Yeah,
over.
no, we know what that is.
Yeah, and that's what y'all are on right now. Not right now, but fuck. Okay.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I love that you travel with your desk, no matter where you are, like it
Exactly. There's no need to buy another desk when I get to Tahiti.
Can I semi-brag for a second, because I'm really proud of this story and it is related.
You are permitted. This is your podcast.
You could be like, everyone shut up. Mute.
Okay, so I think it was my first year. Yeah, no, my first or second year of grad school. I don't know. Anyway, point is, starting strong. So I had just finished my finals and I was like, I'm gonna go backpack and get the fuck out of civilization. And I was super excited, and I was out with my boyfriend, and I decided so I drove to Tahoe, and Tahoe's like 3.5 hours away from where I live, which is pretty close. And so on the way to Tahoe, I was like trying to do some sort of research. And so I was sending collaboration emails to like random professors I'd never talked to before. And I was like, hey, if you want to collaborate, let me know. And one of them was like, yes, let's have a call tomorrow at 9 a.m. And I was like, cool. So I went backpacking, and then we packed up our campsite at 5 a.m. and backpacked back to the car, drove to a local coffee shop. And then I had my call with this fucking
that's a grind right there.
I'm so proud of it. It was
shouts out to Taylor though for like being on board with that.
Taylor's
like just being like, yeah, babe, let's fucking like pack it up. Let's get the hell out of here. You got shit to do. You got a career to make.
5 a.m. and he did not speak to me for 3 hours. He was like,
yeah, I mean, who would? But still, I mean, he's a champ.
Yeah. So anyway, traveling desk is the way to go. And that's one of the cool things about grad school, right? Like you can do work theoretically. I mean, I don't know. I don't work in a lab, so I'm not really
traveling lab. Yeah, no, I had a private
got my
lab.
centrifuge in the closet.
Imogene has a centrifuge in her house.
Mm-hmm.
Whip it out. You won't.
BRB.
I hope she drags out a washing machine.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, how big is this
Don't
thing?
ruin the surprise.
Here we go. She's just gonna spin around with like a beaker. Just.
It took a really long time to process that, but
I was like, is my internet going low, or is it just like not funny, Dylan? Come on now.
I don't know. I just like, especially with like how like gorgeous she is, I'm just like picturing Princess Elsa with like a beaker spinning around.
Oh, I don't think that's what I call is beaker like the proper thing that's like, oh, a test tube. Sorry.
No, a beaker is what you're drinking out of.
I'm not drinking out of a beaker.
Yeah.
Oh, she is. Oh, is she? Oh my God, that is so fucking sick. God damn it.
So I have these instead of shot glasses. So like 45 mils is about a shot.
Do you drink out like the little pouring edge only? Like the little, yeah.
You bet. Well, now she's going to.
Is she better? Or else, I mean, my OCD would
I
get the
haven't
best
looked
of
at
me.
the YouTube count, and I'm just assuming that everyone else is bored as fuck right now. So there's not like everyone.
I've assumed that the viewership was 0 at this point.
Yeah.
I don't
no,
know anything
no.
in Vortex, so I feel sad. All right. I don't have anything to Vortex. There's no use in plugging it in.
Or you know what you should do? You should pour a shot in it, put it in the centrifuge, and then take the shot.
What happened? You know what? If I took your murky tequila and put it in this thing, I would get a funky precipitate.
Yeah,
And
so
I would not be interested in drinking it.
that's why I was afraid. Because I said, you know, when Susanna asked me, "Is that pure tequila?" I knew that if I said yes, you put it in a centrifuge, you'd have me send it over IRL, and you put it in a centrifuge and be like, "What the fuck is this separation, you motherfucker?"
How sick would it be though if we actually planned this well and you could just like pass it to her?
Oh my
God.
God, that'd be
Damn
so
That
That
cool.
would be so good.
Next
We
week.
can edit that out. Yeah,
That's why
w-
people
we
should
can edit
start
out
sending
Suzanne's
Sarafina
comment.
alcohol and then also send it to her guests. So you
Yes.
should send it to her.
And then everybody in the chat just, whoa, sorry. And then just like have like accidental mistake, pass it this way.
You're like, oh shit, that's not what I wanted.
All right, so I don't think you
That
can
could
see it.
totally
This
be
is a
done.
mini mixer. This is
What are
actually
you showing us? Tell us
so
about
this is a lab grade stuff. The reason I have this, if you weren't on 2 weeks ago, it's because one of my buddies works in a lab and we helped him like clean his house out and he was just getting rid of stuff. He's like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of these. And he just gave them to me. That's not an interesting story, but that's basically the story. So this is something that I use a lot called a vortexer. It just says mini mixer. It's this little teeny thing that basically, this is plastic and this is a rubber top and there's a recess here because the goal, at least in the way that I use it, is to take a test tube. This is lip gloss, but pretend this is a test tube and it has like poop in it, where I'm trying to extract DNA. I've got to basically like lysate or basically I need to like lysate cells or I need to digest proteins.
Yeah, I know
You
what
add
that
a bunch
means.
of reagents to like your test tube and then you can use this little guy. You press down and it vibrates.
Oh,
You probably can't see it because it like vibrates really fast. And basically,
right.
all it does is it's just rotating it really fast. The whole goal is to agitate whatever's in the test tube and to vortex it. So basically it creates like a mini tornado in the test tube. And so it really ensures, it's like the KitchenAid of the
So
lab.
Dylan is losing it.
It ensures like proper mixture. I feel like there's a lot of like gross stuff that could be happening in the comments based on Dylan's reaction, but basically that's what it is.
Oh, I think it's like a wonderful apparatus.
And the other guy, I can't, well, hold on, I can make it work. I don't have test tubes, but I can make it work.
Yeah, I love that. You've not been in a lab for so long.
I know. I watched someone make a joke video. It was Andrew Dotson, who Dylan had on his After Hours podcast earlier this week. He made a joke video about physics classes, and he like wrote a derivation in the background, part of the joke video, and I watched it and I like kind of teared up a little bit and I was like, fuck, I miss doing derivations. And I was like, who am I? Like, what is wrong with me?
I do
What
love being in
alien?
the lab. Being in the
Not
lab is
at
fun.
all.
Yeah, no, it's just
So I called it a centrifuge, which is technically a quote mini centrifuge, but it's not like the washing machine size centrifuge that really forms like a really, really reliable pellet in a given tube or in like a given test tube. So basically what this does is a different version of what I just showed you. The first thing that I showed you is like the wash cycle. So it basically is just supposed to agitate and mix. It's like the mixer of whatever you're doing. I gotta stop doing certain things. This guy, the whole goal of this is to basically take like whatever's in your test tubes. Like if you mix something together, you need to get it all the way down to the bottom of the tube. And basically what that prevents is that like when you open the lid, it prevents things like from splashing out. This is a poor example, but I'm just using it. And so basically you put a bunch of these guys, you put all your test tubes in these little holes right here. You can see it like kind of like that.
okay. So that's the one that spins around. That's what that's what was in my head.
They both spin around.
No, the other one is a bit.
Oh, gotta close the lid.
yeah,
Safety.
the other one's
And you can't see it because it's spinning so fast. So I didn't actually need to plug it in at all. But basically that's it. And I have it in my closet for my garage business of determining your dog's DNA.
Wait, okay, I have a
I
question.
don't have that business.
For people who do things in labs, what have you ever done anything particularly dangerous where you're like scared you're gonna fuck up your lab or something like that? Susanna's like,
Susanna says yes, and I want to hear the story because
Yeah,
my answer is no.
I've got two. One is the centrifuge, like the one that was just brought up of like these washing machine style things that are literally the size of washing machines, and you put these like big tubes. I'm not gonna show that.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Big tubes of just stuff in there, and you slot it into all these different spaces, and then you turn on. And so there's one that's called like an ultra centrifuge, and you put on this like UFO shaped thing, and it has these different bottles in it. You just set it down there because the centrifugal force. So it's like if you're in one of those silly silos at like a shady park and you stick to the wall. It just spins around and it presses everything out to the edge. But with these ultra centrifuges, it's actually held down in place because of the centrifugal force. So it's this thing that's like 50 pounds. It's got a bunch of samples in it, and you just set it in this washing machine, and that's it. You just like close it and turn it on. And if you're imbalanced, like it's like a washing machine. So if you have like a bunch of stuff on one side, it'll start like boom, 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 boom. You have to turn it off because there are stories of it, the centrifuge, like at the minimum walking around the lab. But it can literally blow out the side. So
Wow.
I have like, that was just.
So how much liquid are you putting in this thing, right? I mean, or how big is it, I guess? Like you said, it was like washing machine size?
So the centrifuge itself is about the size of the ultra centrifuge that I used to use is about the size of a washing machine, and the bottles were about this big. But
Oh wow,
someone
yeah,
wants to know how long does it last when you like run something on it?
yeah, that's a great question. I was curious about like how long does it stay separated?
It kind of depends. Like
Minutes, hours, days, totally depends.
Most times I would run it for like 10 to 20 minutes because a lot of that is just getting it up to speed because it goes really, really fast. But
Right.
As far as keeping separated, I feel like it's sort of the same as, once it's all packed down, it's sort of like even if you put a powder that's going to dissolve in liquid really easily, right? Like a crystal light powder or something. And I blame you because you were like low calorie. And I'm like, oh, I used to drink Crystal
Why
Light.
didn't you use Gatorade power? That works.
Yo, Crystal Light was dope. Like
Crystal Light.
are they still around?
I don't know, but did you ever like have the mojito one? Like that was good.
Yeah, like all that shit was dope.
Y'all are
Yeah.
weird.
The product
Didn't
placement
have
on
that.
this show is something.
Yeah, no, fuck, we gotta edit that out. I don't advertise for free usually, but whatever. Crystal Light, you earned it. You earned
Wow.
it. You're probably out of business by now.
They might be.
I'm just now catching up, and I know that we're not supposed to do this, but I'm reading some of the comments in the YouTube, and y'all are some dirty people. That's all I have to say. I'm not, it's fine. No one's being inappropriate.
I
But
mean,
y'all fine.
come on.
And I'm gonna watch this back later and be like, oh no.
Yeah, you'll
fine.
definitely watch it back. You'll be like,
Good. Mhm.
oh, that's not like a
Not an A+ in
centrifuge.
self-awareness. It's fine.
I just like that. How many for this person that you got them from? How many did he have?
So he had those, and he also had 200 pipe
Oh,
headers.
God.
Oh my
200
God.
what?
But they were really poor. Like they were
What was 200 what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
pipe
200 what?
headers. So like I'm just gonna stop.
No, you're fine. Like I just didn't hear it.
He had like 200 pipe headers, and they weren't high quality. I think like his lab brought them. They're like Chinese or Japanese, and like some really low quality brand that is realistically probably better for.
What is a pipette? Like I don't know what that is.
a pipe header? Susanna, you should.
Yeah, I have some. Okay. You guys keep talking while I go find them. I'm gonna like.
Heyo.
Okay.
I love that.
Bring
she's
the
got
dogs
pipe
down,
headers. See,
too.
we can start a business.
Pipette.
It effectively draws up very tiny amounts of liquid to use in like different types of chemical reactions.
Okay.
Which, so we work in like microliters. It's like 1,000 microliters is 1 ml.
Yeah, I got that much.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I always have to think about things like that. Like when I do conversion, it's like old school. Like I'm literally in my head, I'm like, all right, take the numerator, cross it with the denominator, and like cross out to. Anyways,
You know what? I believe, the thing is that there used to be
Oh,
a
that's
song by
big. I didn't
there used
realize it was that big.
there used to be a song by Lil Wayne that was actually about unit conversion.
About what?
I don't believe
Unit conversion. No, I'm serious.
That
It was Lil Wayne, and it was about unit conversion, and it goes a milli, a milli, a milli, a milli, 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 a milli, a milli, or something like that. I can't remember if he said milli or centi, but
that Millie. I know the song.
All right, Susanna, show us.
This is a pipetter. I could have grabbed the tips, but I shut up. God damn it. All right.
Go on.
So so the only ones I've seen are plastic. So is that?
So this is a pipetteman.
what's the goal? Like, what is that for? Is that like injecting like aliens with it or something? Or
These are too big. They're too small. You can those ones that you're holding.
wow, your dog is really well trained. Just kidding.
I'm gonna pay for that later. Thank you. All right. So the goal of this is that it's like a very tiny measuring cup, essentially. But instead of like pouring into it, it pulls it back up. So this is called a P1000, and that it tells you that the upper limit is 1 milliliter. So this has 100 milliliters. It would take, if I had this at max capacity, 100 pipettes up and down. So I can stab. Hold on. Stab.
Oh, cool.
Grab these tips. Why? Is there a better way for me to say that?
No, you
No, you just gotta go. Just gotta go.
You just gotta, just power through it.
So right now it's set at 800, which means that I will get 800 microliters every time I press down this plunger. So I press it down, it shoots air out, and then when I pull it back up,
Oh wow.
it'll.
So
pull
it's like,
back out.
so it's essentially the same mechanism, right? As those things like a prescription used to come in, right? But it's like it's just much more pressure.
It's just much more precise because I can be like, I'm
more precise.
750. So a P1000 is sort of the
Oh.
biggest version you have. There's some a little bit bigger, but this is usually the biggest. And it goes like P200, P20, P2, and it means like the P2, the most it can take up is 2 microliters, and so you can do like a half a microliter, which is like.
And it's that precise. And it's
Yeah.
like just like a little dial, like it's not electronic or anything like that.
Yep. So I love these. So if you just spin it, it like.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wow, that's really precise.
It'd be really cool to like kind of take that apart and see exactly how it's calibrating that.
Oh yeah.
And does your thumb get sore?
You can. So they're really easy to
So
take
she's
apart.
like, yeah, I've taken this shit apart as
Oh yeah, I've done microbiology
like a
research
bear
for
into meat.
a decade.
So
So
the first time I broke a pipetter, I panicked because I did not know how to do what Susanna is currently doing.
I
yeah.
know.
So
She got a PhD in that, so.
I did. Yeah, no, it's really fun. And I actually have these for science communication. Like these sort of similar to how Imogen was saying, like these are the right brand, like these are the good brand, but they're super uncalibrated. They might not pull up the right amount, which is not good for when you're doing research. But it's fine when you're doing science demos with kids. So I have a whole box of like science
right.
junk. And it's
So
fun.
do you have to calibrate it though? Like independent? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Most scientists don't actually do it themselves, but there's people who come around like once a year and they're like, give us your pipette bins and we'll calibrate them. And you're like, all right, fix it.
And so like if you're just doing research, it's just like a plus or minus. But like if you're, doing like a, I don't know, prescription for like a very potent dose, then it's obviously something that should be calibrated probably within the week.
Yeah, I don't know how often they calibrate. It's pretty easy to find out if they're off because basically what you do is that water should be like 1 mil should be 1 gram. So.
Oh, so you just like weigh it to make sure and okay.
You just weigh water. You just stand there and you're like.
Oh, that's cool. It's a cool little check. Yeah, I like that.
Quick-
That's really neat.
Quick things. So two things. One, I want to get back to your story.
she's not letting you get away with it.
It has now been almost 2 hours and we still have not heard your story because I'm just too excited to talk to you guys.
Even if it's drunk scientists, which I'm here for.
Yes. Second announcement, and this is at everyone. Imogene is now formally my co-host, and we are now science together because Imogene's amazing, and I love her very much.
That is so cool.
I know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
That's so good.
Yeah, Imogene fucking
Can't
rocks.
believe I was here for it.
Yeah,
That makes me like a producer, right?
yeah, and well,
I'll just be a fanboy, thanks.
it's funny seeing like Dylan's feed, which is this huge McMansion, and then Susanna, your feed, which is like some beautiful drawings and photos, and just the contrast is great. Dylan, I don't know if you heard, but one of my friends literally texted me and was like, "Is that guy in a mansion?"
Yes.
I got a torn up cat scratch in the background. What's up?
I know.
I'll get some.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, I didn't mean to show off, but I didn't know where else to do it. So.
Yeah, fair. That makes sense. You know, you got to be you.
Yes.
Okay, so continue on your story, please, Susanna.
Yes. So stories. Yeah, because originally you asked me about like an awkward or funny story.
Hold on, before you get going, Susanna, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask Sarafina if you wanted to shout out to the mod here. Like you said that you were going to tag her, things like that. Like she's been doing a great job, right?
Yeah, so we have two mods, Rebecca Larson and Teresa Swanson. They're amazing. They have spent their Friday nights with us since the inception of this show and done an incredible
They've been the brains
job
behind the scenes, right?
We have a Slack channel on the side where they kind of funnel us questions, which is really helpful because it's hard to keep up with the chat. So Rebecca, Teresa, you guys are truly amazing. It sucks because by the end of the show, I'm too drunk to like give adequate credit to everyone. But I hope everyone knows that this team behind this is incredible. And the guests, y'all are amazing. Imogene, my co-host, is amazing. Yeah, no, thank you guys for tuning in. And seriously, the mods are awesome.
Sure.
This show is infinitely better with them. So thank you guys.
Right on. Yeah, I just wanted to.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the first one that came to mind for me is actually that like, okay, so I feel like every scientist or every grad student, as you get going, you read all these papers and there's some people that their names keep popping up and you're like, okay, that's like the guy, you know, or it'll be like from this guy's lab or from this woman's like entire research history. And so I just think it's really funny because we sort of have this idolization of these different humans and they become science for us. And I had this opportunity to go to this conference a couple years ago in Spain, and I made all these jokes with people in my lab. I was like, oh yeah, Kevin Foster's going to be there and we're going to be like best friends because like it's going to be me and like Kev chilling out because he does the coolest, like some of the coolest science. It's hardcore modeling and like physics, but mostly bacteria. And it's just
so he does modeling on the side, like he's a model, like
yeah, he's beautiful.
No, I mean, I know, like, I mean, I was just wondering because like we probably have a similar career then and we could link up and
yeah, you guys should like chill and like, you know, just post a bunch of stuff. So anyway, Twitter modeling. I was like,
Do not endorse this.
Yeah. So, but I was like, I'd read so many of his papers and I was just like joking with my lab that I was going to do this. And so I get to Spain, I'm all on my own. I hop on this bus because it's some like weird place in Spain. And I'm like look around, there's some guy in front of me and there's like no one else around. And I forgot, like I asked him a question, we're chatting and whatever. And he seemed super nice. Like we're talking about penguins or something. I was like, oh, I didn't catch your name. He's like, oh, I'm Kevin. I was like,
wait, sorry, pause. I'm so sorry. This is like the crux of your joke, but I just have to say, have you seen the video of the penguin being trapped on the ice that was breaking away? And then he like finally made it to the
bro, she just said, is your name Kevin? That was like the thing.
Oh, sorry. I know it was the crux of the joke, but more importantly, penguins. Have you seen this video?
Okay. No, penguins? I agree. Penguins are fucking dope. So this video better be fucking dope.
Put it in the chat. Who's the mods that are like running the world?
Okay, I'm sorry, Kevin.
So
Yes.
Kevin's talking penguins.
Yeah, no, so I was oh, Kevin. He's like, yeah, Kevin Foster. He has a British accent, and I'm
Oh.
quite drunk enough to try to do that.
Oh,
but
so you
we-
didn't
Was
even
Kevin
know the whole
Foster.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let you finish. I'm just gonna stop interrupting. I'm not very good at my job.
No. So Kevin Foster, and he's super nice. He's like the most chill person ever. Hilarious human. I did the last night of the conference get very drunk and like we all switched name tags. Like everyone switched name tags, and I had his for a bit. And I was like, "Hello, I'm Kevin Foster, and I like math." And it was really bad.
Oh no.
Yeah, but he's like still a friend, and he's freaking hilarious because like he puts.
That's awesome that like you linked
Yeah.
up with somebody like that. Like just
Yeah.
you didn't even know it, and like now are you guys still in contact or?
Yeah, no, like we ended up at the same conference this summer. And what's funny is that for some reason, well, okay, actually, related to that conference, because I was like, wow, I've already like just whatever. And I'm on my own. I don't have anything else to do. So I decided, why the fuck am I like this? I decided to start taking photos. I'm gonna have to like send them out. But I started to start taking photos and pretend like I was really like I was pretending that we were super close. So I'd take a photo where I was like 10 feet in front of somebody.
No.
And I'd be like, me and Kevin had been a great talk. And I'd be like, ha. And these are some of the biggest names in the field. And there's so many of these. And some of them were like actually stealth, like they'd be super stealth mode. And it was like me doing this. And I'm like, oh, just me and Lars chatting over stuff. And I would just
Did he know that you like? Did he find out that you were taking these photos?
not at first. But I told people, and by the end, I would just tell them, I'd be like, I'm gonna take this really creepy photo. I need the two of you to just like talk to each other, and I'm gonna take this picture. So I feel like there's plenty of people who that's the only thing they know about me, and that's probably still better than a lot of options.
This is PhD Balance, brought to you here by Drunk Science with Sarafina Nance as your host. Thank you for tuning in.
So good at that. He's so good at that.
That actually does sound really good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I'm like,
It's just the microphone.
Featuring Kevin Costner.
No, I don't think I could. No.
Well, no. I mean, that was a dope story. I just felt like it needed a plug, you know?
Yeah, no. You
Guys, I just looked at our I just looked at our YouTube analytics.
Oh, there's mad
Yeah.
feedback coming out.
Guys, I just looked at our YouTube analytics.
Whoa, there's.
Huh?
I'm gonna mute myself. I
I
suggest
fixed
everybody
it.
mute
It
themselves.
was my bad. I fucked
Oh, I was like, what is happening?
up. I'm so sorry.
So yeah, you opened Facebook Analytics or YouTube Analytics.
Yes, I opened YouTube analytics and our Dylan.
Am I allowed to come back yet? Was I the problem?
Yeah, we fixed it.
We're not.
Oh, what was the problem?
I was the big problem. I really fucked up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't know. I was just like trying to like, you know,
Yeah.
I would go to commercial break, but you know.
Yeah, Dylan has commercial breaks on his channel. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, but like, there's nobody like paying for them. I just like make up commercials.
It's really just pee breaks, which is great.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
Consume a lot of alcohol. Anyway,
We're all human.
my point now is not that much fun. It was supposed to be like an offhanded comment, and then it just like got really hacked up. So I'm gonna keep going.
What are your earrings?
Ween to Kings. I don't know. They just remind me of that. We were just on the. I was just literally thinking about her earrings, Susanna. When you said, "What are your earrings?"
How do I zoom in on somebody?
One of my best friends got me these earrings for my birthday a couple years ago, but now I feel like they're like kind of boobs without the nipples. I don't know.
Oh.
I think a lot about boobs since my surgery, so yeah,
Fair.
they're boobs.
Yeah, Dylan and I are not gonna say anything.
Ween to Kings are also known as samaras, which is the like. I'm reading my description because I'm gonna screw it sideways if I don't. So it's a type of fruit in which a flattened ween of fibrous papery tissue develops from the ovary wall. So like the part that's connected
Nice.
to here is the ovary, and these two little guys are the flattened things, and they're called Ween to Kings because when you drop them, they're the things that like spin when they fall down.
Oh, that's
Wow.
cool. Wait, can you post that in the chat? That's really cool.
Yes, it's gonna be you know what, friends, if you're in school and you have to write an essay, don't use Wikipedia as a source, but on Drunk Science, you can.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, my research, like whenever someone is like, you should go learn about this topic, I immediately go and comb Wikipedia, and then I just cite the sources at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Don't cite wiki. All you have to do is literally just cite everything wiki cites, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanna do another cheers because I need another drink, but I'm looking for people who. Oh, someone wants to cheers academic
Yo,
Twitter.
let's do
I'm
this.
down for that.
Oh, let's
Aw,
go.
I
Pour it
love
all
that.
out.
All
Yeah,
right.
cheers. Academic Twitter is a
I'm
great
gonna
cheers.
ask.
This is
Is
authentic.
that Taylor? Tell Taylor I said what's up, man. I love him. He's
He
so
has-
dope.
He is so dope. He has his
God, he's such a king. He's doing king shit right now. Grabbing you ice, getting you wine while you're killing shit.
no, he's
God, God damn, such a king.
I know.
So dope.
He's
Can you hear me?
Can
Did
we do another
he
shot?
hear the compliment?
he did. He has his silencing headphones on. Right?
Hell yes.
So I was
Hell
like,
yes.
Sir.
Taylor. Oh, so he's listening? Hell yeah, Taylor. What's good, man? No, he can't talk about it.
So Dylan and Taylor, this is a fun. Okay, I'm sorry. We should cheers, and then I'm gonna tell this story
Okay, fair enough.
again. Not
we
my
have next?
favorite story, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Also, Sarafina, are we gonna do another shot at some point?
Yes.
Oh, let's do it.
We
I'll
could
do it
do a
with you.
shot for all 4 of us.
Do it.
I will observe.
Okay, you can observe.
Observe.
Okay,
I'm
I
the
already have-
observer.
I only say this because I already have mine. And I was like, I measured it really well.
Okay, once again.
Wait, hold it up. We gotta see. I want to see the
Okay, I
precision.
measured it medium well. It's a little bit heavy.
Man, what does the meniscus
Which
say?
means you measured it well.
Yeah.
Where's the? You have to measure it from the
This is
meniscus.
Dylan, that is the only thing I remember about lab science.
Me too.
at all.
Literally me too.
There's a tiny piece of flour in
It looks good.
Okay, wait. Everyone, introduce what they're drinking one more time. We have some questions.
Are you sponsored? I'm not sponsored.
No, I actually have my friend Daniel Gershom. He's sending me like he is at a startup for a liquor company. He's sponsoring Physics After Hours, and I'm gonna get all his free liquor. It's gonna
Oh
be dope.
shit, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
That's
It's gonna be so
amazing.
cool.
Yo, if people send me alcohol, I will drink
Yeah,
it.
guys, Patreon.
Shirts, I will wear them.
I'm gonna make a quick plug. I didn't know how to make the jump here.
That's
but,
okay.
We had some really wonderful people suggest that we do a Patreon for this channel. So I set that up earlier today. Rebecca and Teresa have put the link in the chat a couple times. We're gonna put it one more time. So if you guys like this channel and want to support our drinking habits, please donate.
These
Yeah.
are trying times.
We're really
All right,
excited
let's
to
do
have
this one again. If you guys think that Sarafina is friggin' awesome and you want to say thanks in some way and you can't do it in person because the stupid COVID thing, buy her a drink
thanks.
and she will love you extra forever. She already loves you
Thank
forever,
you.
but like a
Thank
little
you. Yeah,
That's
no,
a great way of putting it. Is buy me a drink, like one drink a month. Like that's a great way of putting it. I never thought of that. I'm
And my
plugging that
hope-
my
my
next
hope-
time.
Says that. Buy me a
I'll
coffee.
cite you
Buy
in
me
the
a
footnotes.
bourbon.
we're gonna split up the kind of funds from this to all the speakers and all the mods so that everybody can,
get that
get them-
shot of tequila. It's gonna be
yeah,
really
exactly. Okay, cool. So, and someone asked if there's a way to do it without a monthly sub. I truly do not know how Patreon works.
Yeah,
Feel
no,
free to-
there's not. There.
Yeah, okay. So if
not
you
on
don't want to
Patreon.
do
There's not.
that, you can ask if you
You
really
can do like a lifetime pledge. Like if you want to like do like no, I'm serious. Like you say like, oh, my lifetime pledge is like $10. You can do that.
Oh, yes. Okay, that works.
For
Also,
$1.
yeah.
Or $1.
You can know,
In which case, come on now, you could do better.
but really, I mean, whatever people want, but also like this is not the most important thing for people to donate to right now, so it's not a huge
Fair.
deal. But
That's a good point.
You know, if you're curious,
is physics
there
after
is there is a way to do it. Okay, regardless, let's cheers.
Yes.
Wait, are we doing a shot? We need
Yeah,
to
we're
get
doing
back-
a shot or are we cheersing? There's a difference.
All right.
You guys do a cheer. How about you guys are gonna do a shot and I'm gonna tell you when to do it. Yeah.
What do
Okay,
you got? Like you got like a marathon in the morning? What's going on, Imogene?
Pick up your drink, Imogene, when you tell us.
He's a goddamn adult, Dylan.
Well,
And we're on the East Coast, and this is a poor decision, but I
Oh no, you guys.
Which we have to talk about later, Susanna. I grew up right outside of Chapel Hill.
what?
Yeah.
oh my God, this is so great. I'm glad that you guys
It
made
was
that
coming
connection.
together. Yeah, anyways, I can't drink that much, but I had a really bad migraine on Wednesday and my body's just like, nah, man.
Oh damn! Now I feel like a dick. You
Flowing. No,
migraine.
it's
God
totally
damn
okay.
it.
No. No, it's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, but it's fine.
Yes, you're a dick, but whatever. It's fine. It's cool.
Fine.
You
So,
insensitive motherfucker.
First person in the chat, what are we cheersing to?
Well, she said earlier, right? You
Yeah, I
said
think we're doing academic.
Yeah.
Just kidding. That.
Authentically,
You guys will be next.
I cannot believe we're taking another shot right now.
It's like our second shot in 2 hours.
You guys, last time I took
Softy.
3 shots, I was crying and I threw up
Softy.
at the bar, and it was terrible.
You said you used to be in a sorority. Come on now,
I
Sarah.
know.
Oh, how
All
tight.
right,
Welcome
to
back to
Twitter? Are we choosing to Twitter? All right,
Where are you cheering to?
Academic
Academic Twitter.
Academic Twitter.
academic Twitter to that.
No. Wait. We will cheers to academic Twitter after the shot. This is a like a shit boy shot. Like this is to our past. Because like we're gonna like I thought that we were like cheersing to something like meaningful, and we were taking shots to things we want to forget.
Oh. Well, you know what? I will say this, since we've been here, I did get an email via my website, and the subject is, "We're not joking anymore." The message is, "Some of us used to joke about how dumb you are." So we can cheers. The name is Guys Upstairs. So you know,
yes.
I want to knock a shot back to the guys upstairs.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
See, that is
Yes.
something you take a shot to.
Yes. All right, guys. Ready? Cheers.
To you, my
Cheers.
friend.
Ah. Daddy, don't ground me.
Imogene, how do I email these people back and tell them to strongly fuck off?
You can't.
I could, because so
Yeah.
it's through like my website, and I'm advertising this on the internet now, but my website is a contact form, and I leave it open because that's where all of like my television contacts and interviews for like articles and like documentary type stuff have come from. But I also get a lot of emails from high school kids that are like, "Hey, like, how do I choose a major or whatever?" And that's all, I'm never going to take the contact form down because, this bullshit is just noise. But none of them, unfortunately, with the platform that I have, you don't have to use legitimate email. And so you can literally put get a boob job at now.com.
Yeah,
I see.
I get a lot of those, stuff like that too. So it's just like, it's all made up stuff. It's all like 14 boys. And
My after hours email is the same as my regular email, but has XXX at the end.
Yeah,
What?
someone responded to my video on Dylan's channel last night with, "Oh, I thought this was a nude video or something." And
Oh, a
I
nude?
was just like, what?
do you mean a nudibranch?
I was
No. I mean, like, I understand why they think that, and like, actually, I mean, like, I was nude from the waist down because like, there's no need to like wear pants anymore. I haven't worn pants in like I don't even know how long. So whatever. It's about where like why cover your ankles when nobody cares?
Why
I'm
cover
kidding.
your ankles anyway?
I have pants on, you fucking disgusting people.
I did not wear pants for my private defense.
Yes, that is
Oh,
so
that's
sick.
amazing.
Yeah, it was.
that is awesome.
Yeah, no, there's
That's excellent.
no, because like who the fuck gets to say that?
Now
like,
the truth comes out.
That
now,
is-
you just
Holy
speak the truth.
Susanna, you are my hero.
I didn't wear
You heard it
my-
here
a
first
nice,
at Drunk
button-up
Science with
black shirt,
Sarafina Nance
and
as
then
your
just,
host.
like,
Thank you for
pants.
tuning in.
That was it. I was like, this is because it doesn't. I'm sitting in this sitting. I literally can't stand up from this position, so I was not worried about like having my brain fall out and doing that. But yeah, like,
Lucky.
how many people can say they defended without pants?
Nobody.
Nobody. That's what
Nobody
I'm
can say.
saying.
That's like what people say to people to make them feel better.
Right?
Yeah, it's
That's
like-
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was just like, like you just pretend that they're not wearing pants, or just like pretend that you're wearing pants. It doesn't really matter. Like
No,
everyone's
you don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like, that takes the stress off. It's like, how stressed can I be? My pants aren't even on yet.
exactly.
Okay. So, Susanna, I have a question for you. You founded PhD Balance. You talk a lot about mental health. You are an advocate and an ally for so much of us who are trying to balance and honor mental health during grad school and beyond, and in undergrad as well. So you've talked a little bit about how your grad school has actually been a really supportive place for you. And so my question to you is, how has that unfolded to be one of your passions? Can you talk a little bit about some of your experiences, either as someone in science, as a woman in science, as someone with mental health disorders, and how that has kind of affected you as a person and your science?
Yeah, totally. I'm like, okay, hold all the things.
Sorry, I know that was a lot at one
No,
time.
it's fine. It's fine. You could have given me two things. I'd still forget one. But yeah, so this all happened. We just had our 2-year anniversary, and this was really just something. I think that it was one of those things that like all the different pieces fell together at the right time. So I had a really, really, really bad time my 3rd year of grad school, which apparently is very normal. It's sort of like this 3rd year of despair. It's pretty normal. But I had failed my written exam, and my writing was one of those few things that I felt like, okay, yeah, I've got this shit together. And I failed it, and I was like, I shouldn't be here. What am I doing? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I ended up super isolated, which is also why I know how hard this situation can be for people, because I was extremely isolated, and it's awful. It's truly it disintegrates your mental health, no matter where you're at. Especially if you have predispositions to having issues, it's really, really hard. And so I went through this, but I failed this written exam, and I ended up passing, but then it was like, I didn't get that feeling back. And I had a history of mental health issues, and it's a family sort of trait. And I got to this point in grad school where I was like, I don't want to be here. This was like my passion. I don't want to do these other things. Even when things are going well, I'm really miserable. And I ended up getting this tattoo, which you can actually see in the video.
Oh, that's so cool. What is that?
Yeah, so it says another sunrise. So the sun is in black because that's sort of the thing, like that happiness, that warmth is this thing that if you get like a little bit close to me, you can see that, and you can tell that I have this tattoo right there. And that's sort of what I try to show people. But if you get a little bit closer, you can see in that white ink, this another sunrise, and that kind of indication that
Oh, that's so sick.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. So I have a video online about it.
Is it like white, or is it like UV? Like, is there a way to make it kind of stand out? And
yeah, so it's
white. That is so neat.
Nice.
That's so
that is
cool.
really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I spoke at this local storytelling group, but I mean, the short version of it is that, and like trigger warning to people on this one, because it like we are going to talk about mental health stuff. But I basically, that was my stopgap of like before. So I got a permit for a handgun, and before I went and actually got that, I had made a decision that I would get a tattoo first, because it was something that I would never really do. And so I went and got this, and the thing was, is that
powerful.
like, yeah, I wanted to see it heal. I wanted to see, because like you get a tattoo and it's horrible. Like they're so ugly. And so I was like, all right, like we're gonna put things on pause. Like I just want to see this, and once I see this, I'll feel good. Like I want to know what this looks like, and then like let's do the other stuff. And the thing with mental illness, and like I suffer from depression, anxiety, we already brought up like some situations with eating disorders, is that it comes in waves. And if you can get through the wave, if you can like think about how like seals dive through waves, or if you've gone to the beach, like how you go through waves, like if you can dive under it and you can get out the other side, like you do get to the other side of that wave. And so that's sort of what happened with this tattoo, is that it was like, all right, I got to the other side, and things did get better. And so a year later, a bunch of things came together, and it was this combination of going to a certain conference, and there was this paper that came out saying about 40% of grad students were dealing with anxiety or depression.
Wow, it is 40%. Wow.
Oh, yeah. So
at least I feel like that's a lower bound.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably underreported.
So here's the thing. I love all this shit. I know as much about this as I do about my own research, which is like questionable, but so this was a paper by Vanderford and Evans, and what was really found like huge about this paper is that they published it in Nature Biotech, or Nature Biotechnology. And this was a big deal because a bunch of scientists saw it, or a bunch of, I should say differently, a bunch of like chemical, biological, physical scientists saw it, and some social scientists. And it was this huge, like 2,000 person survey. And what was so amazing about this is that it was a survey that they asked people questions that were the questions in this like PHQ-9, which is a study of whether you're dealing with signs or symptoms of depression, or there's an anxiety version that they also included those questions. So instead of saying, do you deal with depression or anxiety, they just asked the questions that you'd be asked at the doctor's office. And so a lot of people might say like, oh, like literally what I said, and this is the thing, is that during that third year, I went into my doctor and I was like, I'm having a really hard time sleeping, like things just suck. And they were like, you're severely depressed. Like based on this PHQ-9, you're at like a really high risk. And I literally said to them like, no, I'm just a grad student. I like, because it's just like, that's
It's normalized.
you know?
Right.
And
yeah, that's a great way of putting it, is that it's normalized.
Yeah, exactly. And so they did this study. And the thing is that it's all based on the last 2 weeks. So 40% of their participants in the last 2 weeks had shown signs and symptoms of severe anxiety or depression.
That's how they reported it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this paper came out. I had a few really important conversations with friends, my partner at the time, a bunch of other people, where it was just like, it was really interesting to see this number and then look around. I was at a conference and looked around. I was like, no, not 40% of this group though. Like this group, it's me and maybe like 2 people in the back. A conversation with a partner where they were basically like, they literally said like, no, but you seem fine. They're like, this isn't an illness. This isn't like a thing. Like that seems like a phase and then you're fine now. And it really snapped me into this idea that no matter how many numbers we see, even if we are scientists, it needs to have this face and we need to start talking about it. And one of the questions I get a lot is like, had you known this, would you have started? And like, fucking no, absolutely not. Like, it was such a big deal for me to even put up the page that was just an Instagram page and to show like a face of somebody and then tell the real story, right? Like we all bring our face to the world and we're like, hey, yeah, it's cool. Like things are hard, but haha, LOL is like whatevs. And then we go home and you like lay on the couch and stare at the ceiling for 4 hours. Like, what are you gonna, what does that mean? And to just provide this space for people to kind of show that dichotomy, I thought was important. And I thought that maybe it was originally called PH depression because that's kind of like,
I kind of like that, to be honest.
I know, I miss it. I was like the last person to sign off on that change. I miss it.
It is specific though. I mean, there are like, I know so many PhD students who struggle with depression or struggle with a lot of other things. So I like that it is a little bit more blanketed than that.
The biggest issue and the thing that convinced me was that there were a lot of people who said, and I get this because I was there, they were like, I don't have depression, but I like recognize that I have a lot of the things that you're talking about. And
it's
so
just the stigma around, don't put that title on yourself. I'm just a stressed out grad student. I've 100% been in that boat. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just a grad student. It's fine. Like I'm just stressed out. It's like, no, laying home on the couch and like staring at the ceiling kind of like definitely hits home a little bit. It's like, oh, I've definitely been there and that's not normal.
Nope.
I literally went to my therapist because I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder for a few years now, and that wasn't anything new, but I went to my therapist a couple months ago and I was like, I'm doing these things and I know that they're symptoms of depression, but I'm not depressed. And she immediately kind of came back to me and was like, anxiety and depression are 2 sides of the same coin, and you can display some at some points and some on the other points. And that was a real wake-up call for me that really actually made me feel a little bit more comfortable, because I think there is a taboo with saying I have depression. And I was super nervous of claiming that because I don't have maybe the things the symptoms that some of my best friends who have depression have. And so I was like, is that right for me to say that? But having that sort of like duality was really helpful for me.
Had you struggled like with that before? Like kind of like you feel like you felt like you had the right to say you had depression. Is that something like you had? And I'm sure this is something other people kind of go through, you know?
I think this is a symptom of mental health kind of in general, like having the confidence to say one thing or another. Where and Susanna, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are about this, but I definitely, I mean, there's an imposter syndrome bingo board, and I hit every single one of the bingo boxes. Like,
bingo, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, I have like
Where's my prize?
And the sad thing is, it's not specific to my career. Like, it's not specific to astronomy. It's not specific to SciComm. It's just like who I am as a person. And I think that's kind of the point, right? Is that is something that is intrinsic to what I'm dealing with. And it affects a lot of things, such as I don't have a right to claim that this mental health disorder is something that I struggle with. And I am afraid of hurting people who claim it, or, you know, whatever sort of the manifestation of that is. So I'm curious, Susanna, to hear a little bit more about that from your perspective, who definitely knows more about it than I do, than someone who just goes to therapy.
Well, first of all, to say you're like someone who just goes to therapy, like that's a very small group. So half of people who have depression or who deal with depression or anxiety, only half of them will ever in their lifetime seek treatment for it.
Wow. Ever?
Wow.
So I mean, I think it's important to kind of reiterate what you were saying, is that, like, you know, is that if you feel like you feel this way, and you know, just seek somebody to talk to. Like don't think of it as treatment, don't think of it as this or that, but like, you know, it could be a therapist, it could be a friend, I feel like, in so many different ways. I mean, you might know better than me. Yeah, because your friends are people who have known you. Right. And that's a lot of times what makes it difficult, is that depression kind of hits out of nowhere. Right. And I'm not saying that this is a general blanket case, but I'm saying a lot of times, you know, you can seem completely fine. And maybe somebody, you know, great, is like, what, you were just fine yesterday. Come on, you're just like in a thing. And honestly, like, that's tough to hear from somebody, you know, like from a first person perspective. It's not like, I don't know how to tell you that these things change really in this volatile way for me. But yeah.
So Susanna, talk a little bit more about what that kind of means to you.
Yeah, so there's this kind of weird version of gatekeeping around these terms. And I usually kind of rely on the legal definitions. So there are things where depression in itself is not a disability. So don't believe people who are like, I have depression, I have a disability. Like that, you believe them because just believe them. Like, that's fine. But like, just because you have depression, you do not have a disability. And this comes from somebody who has a very good friend who is on full-time disability because of their depression.
Yeah.
Very different situation.
Yeah.
So someone who says like, oh, I have depression, so I have a disability, so I can't do X, Y, Z. That is something that you cannot claim just because of how you feel. That's something that is established by a medical professional, by a psychological professional. So that's where the gatekeeping actually happens. And that's okay. Where gatekeeping happens that it should not is where people say, I'm dealing with depression. And other people say, well, like, prove it. Where's your prescription pad? Like, what are you taking? What does your psychologist say? Like, that's not helpful. One thing that I really love to point to, and I think this has come up, is this idea of like, what is normal and what is normal in grad school?
Yeah.
You know, the adult population has about, like, we average at about like 6% deal with depression. Like, that's generally average. And this finding that like between 30 and 40% of grad students deal with depression or anxiety, like that's huge. And one thing that really pissed me off, and what part of I started PhD Balance, is that we have known these numbers for fucking decades. Like social sciences have been publishing this, and I wish I had known this in like my first year, because then when I felt that, I wouldn't have been like, oh, I'm a failure. It'd be like, oh yeah, me and fucking everybody. I'm so sorry if you want to monetize this.
No, this is great.
But like, so there's that side. And the thing that I like to bring up is the fact that there's a certain condition that 60% of people who deal with it end up getting some sort of treatment, and it's around the world. And if they don't have treatment, they can't live their regular lives. And it has this scalability from like an inconvenience all the way to a disability. And that is vision. 60% of people at some point in their life, if they can access it, get access to vision help. I don't have like, I have pretty perfect vision.
Whoa, wait. Hold up. This seems like a completely unrelated variable to me.
Yes, exactly. But the thing is, we say grad school, it's normal to feel this way. It's normal to be terrified. It's normal to feel like shit. It's normal to feel like you are the worthless piece of like garbage on the
part of being in grad school.
Yeah, and it is normal. It is so normal. It's also super normal to not have very good vision. But the difference is that when you don't have great vision, you get treatment.
Right.
When you feel like shit as a grad student, you're told to get over it. You know? Just because something's normal doesn't mean we can't address it. And the same way as you wouldn't tell somebody like, well, I can see, why don't you just why don't you just like, you know, like think.
Why don't you just focus, motherfucker?
Yes, exactly. Like and if you met somebody who had really great, you know, like had spent time to get glasses, you wouldn't be like, oh, great, you can see now. So like, have you thought about like not wearing the glasses anymore?
That's dope. That's a dope analogy.
That is a good analogy.
So I just think that, like, it's normal in a lot of ways. It is normal that grad students like based on normal, it's normal. It's still not okay.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful, Susanna. I mean, really. I mean, I could tell you've thought deeply about this, really. You know.
Thank you.
Good shit.
I don't know.
I'll drink to that.
Thank you. You're very sweet. Yeah, I am surrounded by really lovely people, and the people that I have gotten to meet through PhD Balance are the best people in the world. Like I have a team of people around the world who do the editing, they do the social media, they do the development stuff. We've got some cool stuff coming out, and they are literally the best people in the world because they are like academics. Like almost all of them are grad students. People are like really freaking passionate about what they do, but they also want to make the world better for the people who are doing the research. And
I have a question for you. As you transition out of academia, I would imagine that you're implementing the same sort of things that you've learned in academia into your future roles. And how does that look with mental health? I would imagine your knowledge base has increased tenfold, right? But in terms of how you treat your job, I talk to a lot of people, my partner included, who is not in grad school right now and has a 9-to-5 job. And it's interesting that I define it as 9 to 5 when it's industry, but that aside, has an industry job, and in quarantine has sort of realized like, hey, I am treating my job differently, and I am treating sort of work-life balance differently, and I really need to pay attention to this because work is not my whole life. And I've noticed a lot of people sort of more generally state that they need to be more conscious about how they treat their work, because their work is maybe not their whole life. And that is sort of coming back to the question for you, how do you think that these lessons translate to out of academia specific situations?
Well, kind of going back to the question of what am I going to do next, and talking about how I'm going to be working with a company and thinking about kind of their marketing and strategy that way. I was in the shower the other day and I was like, oh, imposter syndrome doesn't end with academia. Like, I don't feel like, oh yeah, I made it. I'm a doctor now. And so I can do everything. And like, I got a job. Like I was in the shower freaking out because I was like, how did I end up in this spot? And like, why are they
Damn.
paying me money?
I had basically forgotten what a shower was for the last few days. So
It's really nice. Like you end up, you have to be naked. I would recommend being naked for it. I would recommend.
Yeah, fair.
And then
Oh,
you
hell,
probably
is that-
put clothes on
okay.
afterwards, but not during.
Well,
Yeah.
wait, so you do your laundry separate from your shower?
Generally,
Because I just like wash it all at once. I figured like why.
throw it away. I just throw it away.
I don't wash it. I was kidding.
Oh, dude, Imogene had the fucking like gold take on that one.
Yeah, you just put in the freezer. It's fine. So in terms of like what lessons I've learned, I think one of the most important things for me is that I have, through working with this team of people, I think the most important thing is just through interacting with these people, and the majority of people, not necessarily on the team, but like in general, that I have these conversations with one-on-one, they also have had their own struggles. And again, if you think 40%, like that's pretty much like 2 out of 3, people are at least gonna understand. 1 out of 3 is gonna deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so most of the people I talk with understand. And what's been the most important is I look at these people and I'm like, that person's fucking amazing. Like they're fantastic. They're so smart. They're so diligent. I just want to be around them because of everything that they have to offer the world. And the fact that they deal with depression, anxiety, eating disorders, ADHD, postpartum depression, like post-traumatic stress disorder, all these different pieces, like that doesn't detract. And in fact, I'm more like, holy shit, like you're doing this plus this thing. And so that's been the biggest lesson that I've taken out of it, is to try to give myself the same compassion that I give to other people. And I'm still really bad at it. But like, would you
I remember hearing that, like you saying that, like at the very beginning, like when I was on mute and and all these other ways, like I thought that was such a beautiful thing. When you were like, I've been trying to appreciate myself in the same way I would talk about other people.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, damn, like it's so simple in a way.
It is.
Yeah.
Would you want people to hear you say the things that you say to yourself about yourself out loud without context?
Exactly.
Yeah. And would I ever?
No matter what it is. I mean, I have it, like my therapist encourages me to do the exercise with a lot of things. Like, would you enforce that same boundary, or would you encourage your friend to enforce a boundary? And therefore, should you enforce that same boundary? In other words, like that's a wordy way of saying, I think this is transferable to a lot of different occasions. Super, super important.
So the boundary you were talking about was like the therapist patient boundary, maybe?
No. It was a general sort of thing of me. It was just an example of saying, would you do this? And your friend would do it. Therefore, should you do it?
Oh, I see. So like the thing my mom told me is like, if your friend would jump off a bridge, this.
Yeah, I mean,
like I know it sounds silly, but like true. Like, I mean, like there's a reason moms say it, is like, I'm convinced to this day, my mom knows so much better than me, like in every walk of life. Like I'm
Moms are often
not
right.
kidding. Like, I know it's weird. Just like as a Bayesian, I'm like, fuck, I have to literally listen to her all the time. Like no matter what she says, she's like, dark matter's bullshit. Fuck, mom. Okay, I'm with you.
Honestly, I'm kind of getting to that point with my mom as well, where I'm like, fuck, like you're probably right.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
But anyway, so yeah, no, I think that's a really good example.
And I try to do other things. So I only noticed this because I have my arm up, but for instance, like trying to surround yourself with people who are really kind, I think can be really hard when you're basically like shitting all over yourself, when you're like, I'm trash, amazing people, I don't want to disturb them. So you can try to surround yourself with important people that like important in terms of they care. Like, that's the only thing that is important, is like,
I have a difficult question, actually.
yeah.
Is that because sometimes there's a fine line to walk between improving yourself and, when other people who are bringing you down, who are just being, offering honest feedback. Is that was something I remember, like, when I was trying to kind of bring myself out of this rut I was coming from as an undergrad, was, okay, like, I want, half the people are telling me, accept yourself for who you are. And this other kind of camp was telling me, like, no, improve yourself. And so how do you, or maybe just in this generalized sense, I mean, because for me, it was so difficult to be like, accept yourself for who you are, but also at the same time, change yourself for the person you want to become.
Good question. I think that it has to do with the fact that how will they react if you don't follow their advice?
Oh, no, I didn't mean this to be about the other person. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. But I mean, like, that's the way to, like, the way I judge it is that a friend is going to offer support. They're going to say what, and they're going to ask you, I think anyone can mansplain. I think men do it more than women, but anyone can mansplain, which is the condescending idea that my
I get it.
is more important, right? And so a friend or someone that you should have with you is going to say, like, how can I support you? Do you want help in being better at this? Or they can say, like, hey, this is something I've noticed. Have you thought about it? Versus somebody who wants to, like, jack up their ego and say, like, oh, I fix this person. Like, that's not helpful, because reality is they're probably just projecting whatever they're dealing with.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. And I guess the thing that I didn't mean it to be that way.
Dylan, can I springboard off of this? Because I think I get
absolutely. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, and this is something that and this is not to say that you're my therapist, you need to figure this out, but something that I struggle with, and I would imagine that a lot of other PhD students struggle with, and even people in the workforce who are curious and are listening. I certainly struggle with striking this balance between I need to do something to be better and fulfill a certain image in my head of what someone does. And I also need to be kind to myself and take myself where I am. And I think that that's something that a lot of people I've seen on Twitter, and myself included, are struggling with right now during COVID and trying to strike that balance. So I'm curious on what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, this was a really important conversation, or a couple conversations I had with my therapist, and it's actually very timely because it's a conversation I've had with a couple friends recently. People are really struggling right now. And if you're struggling right now, that's very normal. Again, just because it's normal doesn't mean that it's not something that can or should be addressed. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That is a really good point.
You're in great company, but it's still something that you need to be finding some sort of support for, and it's really hard, but that's another topic. The main point that my therapist brought up that I could not answer for a very long time is, she's like, let's say you didn't do anything. Let's say you didn't improve. Let's say you weren't producing anything. Are you still worthy of being alive? Like, are you still worthy of being someone's friend? Are you still valuable as a human? And I think that's the thing, is that our self-worth has to come in from the fact that we're like, I as a person am enough. I am enough as, and everything else, that's additional. That's something I want. I am what I need. I have everything I need right here. Whatever size I am, whatever mental health status I'm in, whatever my makeup looks like, whatever, I am what I need. I want to improve. And I think that that's, if we always put our needs in front of our wants, if we always say, I need to take care of myself because this is what I have, because it's really hard to strike that balance. But if you can get to that point, and I'm still not there all the time, like I'm not sitting here like I figured it out, but
Yeah.
I have the goal. If you can get to the point where you are enough without doing anything, like your existence is enough, then everything else is a goal. And if you don't meet that, that's okay, because you are already enough.
I think a good way to like frame that for me has been learning to be a little more intentional with my language. So like, I grad school anxiety. I think I went to like student counseling once my second year, and they said, oh, you're stressed out, you can go like find like a permanent counselor or something. So it's kind of a dead end. But like when I did speak with them, they said, you are using a lot of really powerful, assertive, like pressuring language to describe your life. Like, I should be doing this, I need to be doing this. The implication being an either or, like as if you don't do this, there will be consequences. And the consequences in my case, or in anyone's in this case, is like anxiety, devaluing sense of self. And so like in all aspects of my life, now that I'm not perfect at it, but I try to be more cognizant of it. Like instead of saying I need to go to the gym, it's I would like to work out. Or, I need to go to bed now and get more sleep. It's a matter of, okay, well, like my goal is to get 7.5 hours of sleep. So if I would like to do that, maybe I should, I could adjust my schedule to do this, or this would be a good way to make that happen, versus very black and white, harsh language. And
language matters a lot. And
it's been a subtle shift for me that's helped a lot.
Yeah, self-talk. I think language is
exactly. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think like just listening to you all, I mean, like you all are so internally aware. It's amazing.
We're about just like, I don't know.
What?
I would also say like, also we're allowed to be. I mean, middle class white women are the demographic that are allowed to talk about this. Men have a really hard time. People of color, people of different backgrounds. No, like literally.
No, I mean you're totally right. I agree, but I mean,
no, that's really fucking true.
No, I mean you're absolutely right, and I mean like it's much more acceptable, for a woman. I'm scared of like saying for a woman to do this or that, but I mean like it is just much more acceptable. Yeah. And but what really hit with me was just that everybody feels this way, and there's really no divide between gender, between the way people feel inadequate, and everybody feels that way. And
everybody.
Yeah, I think it's really really important for men, I think, and basically not cis women, to equip themselves with language and resources.
But it was the internal language that you were saying, is that like, I mean, like,
that's right.
like when it started, what Susanna is saying, from the very beginning, is like to talk to other people, to talk to myself the way I talk about other people. And then Imogene saying, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly the words of it right now. But the kind of common theme just seemed to be the way that we talk about ourselves internally, because very few people talk to themselves, verbally. But it's the kind of language you use against yourself. And I mean, I'm just gonna say,
Yeah, I mean, we see that in social media, right? I mean, everything is all leading language and buy this product and look this way, or, the implication being if you have this, you look like this person, or you can get rid of this thing about yourself that you don't like. And realistically, it's, this capitalist society, this part of our capitalist society is banking on the fact that there's something about yourself that you don't like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know, like, there's plenty of things about me I don't like, for a long time.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just saying
No. I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to.
I'm just saying the honesty is refreshing. But yeah, no, it's nice. It makes sense.
Yeah, no, and
so sorry,
No.
really quickly, and we should get back to this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Dylan.
Serafina, God damn it.
I 100% did mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. But we were asked / suggested to do a cheers to the struggling grad students out there.
Oh, hell yes.
I think that would be a
I'll
really
be interrupted the fuck out of for that.
timely cheers for us, if we have time to do that. So.
Oh, we have plenty of time.
Oh, we always have time.
So cheers
Oh,
to the
fuck.
struggling grad students. You guys are not alone. We're all struggling grad students. So
I mean, let's give them a little bit of heart too, you know? It's not like
yeah,
we're all
it's hard.
like
It's really hard, and we're all trying to figure it out.
and no matter what you did, like you pursued what you wanted to do, you know?
Yeah, and
As a
even
fourth
if,
year grad student, I don't have it really any more figured out.
yeah,
None
exactly.
of us
Yeah.
ever figured
Yeah.
out. Take that
No,
away.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. I need to pee. And Serafina, how the hell do you not need to pee? You've been hosting for
I
fucking ever.
100% do.
All right,
I
who's taking the show off? Who's the host while we go pee?
yeah. So
You guys can go and I'll hold down the fort.
cool. And then let's spend about 20 more minutes talking, and then I think we should probably wrap it up. So well, why not?
All your videos are like 2.5+ hours.
I know, no, literally, I'm like, how does this happen? And then every time I'm recording, and I'm like, fuck, I just want to keep talking.
It's good vibes.
I feel like I'm in a bar, and I'm just like, let's keep talking.
It's fine. I mean, the legitimate thing is we'd all be sitting here talking together, and like none of us see the YouTube right now. So
No, none of us.
Yeah, I don't see any of it either.
Like, let's keep going.
I talk to myself all the fucking time right now.
I'm pretty sure I just got called a simp like probably 50 times, so whatever.
No, it's
Like
we truly, I think that's kind of the goal, and I'm glad to get it that
Yes.
way. No, not that, but we are all enjoying talking to each other and
Yeah.
having a little bit of time to talk about science and talking about being in grad school or academia or whatever it is. And
Oh wait, a woman can have something to say that I could learn from?
Oh, there.
Simp. Oh, get me out of here.
yeah, so all right, I'm going to use the restroom. We are going.
I will too. Imogene,
Yeah, Susanna, you
your
and I
show.
are-
It's your show, baby girl.
Okay,
Take it away.
we'll be right back.
We're doing the science or something. I don't
So for those of you that don't know, Susanna is currently in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, which is a very cool place to be. And I am from Charlotte, North Carolina, but I grew up and went to
I thought
high
I
school
told you
in
to go
Hillsborough,
home.
North Carolina.
I thought you to go home.
I don't know what he's yelling. He's too far away somewhere in his
know.
mansion.
Go home, but I don't.
Jeez, go home.
Oh,
Oh,
we're
he's telling his assistants to go home or something.
yeah, it's really nice.
What's your favorite part about Chapel Hill?
My favorite part about Chapel Hill. So, wow. The first thing that came to mind is the fact that we have free buses. I know that seems so simple, but like Chapel Hill, the buses are free and they go all over Chapel Hill.
As it should be.
It's like $1. And so I love that. Other stuff is like, it's really pretty and of the
It's pretty.
area. So I live at the border of Durham and Chapel Hill. And as soon as I started saying that, I was like, no.
Right.
But I love Durham. So Durham is right next door. And like, there's so many good breweries. Their food is amazing.
It
And
got like that after I left North Carolina.
yeah, yes.
It grew. It was probably always great. I just didn't know it. But
No. Durham exploded. Durham used to be bad. And like
it was bad when I was growing up. Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
No. But it's like the restaurants, the breweries that have come out of it are amazing. So most of the time when I go out, I go to Durham. I really like it here. So I grew up in Iowa. I grew up like in the middle.
Okay, that was my follow-up.
Yeah. And I went to University of Iowa for undergrad. And so, I mean, Iowa was a great place to grow up. I prefer to be a young adult in North Carolina.
Fair. That makes sense. Yeah. And so, one thing that I think is really important to always mention in a conversation is where you stand in the world of barbecue. Because
Yes.
I'm from North
You have
Carolina,
been-
which for those of you who are not from North Carolina and you think someone else's barbecue is good, I'm sorry, you're not correct. Susanna, do you like pork barbecue? And if yes, do you like Eastern North Carolina barbecue or Western North Carolina barbecue? And I'm gonna flip that because this is the West and this is the East. But anyways, you guys are on the computer, so it probably looks backwards.
I don't know which way is west or east from here. My partner just flashed a screen at me that says drink water, which is good.
That's so
Yeah.
nice.
I think that's the epitome of our relationship is I'm like, words. And he's like, please keep yourself together.
Here's some glue.
Actually though.
It's me.
No, when I think of barbecue, I think of the tomato-based, barbecue. So like more of the
That's
West.
fair.
Yeah, but I actually love the like vinegar version here. I think it's nice because a lot of times when you eat the tomato-based barbecue, you end up just being like, it's so much sugar and so much fat and it's delicious.
Right.
And all my like neurons turn on. And then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna just curl up for a while. And there's at least a little bit more like
Imogen nods knowingly in the background.
oh yeah.
I'm real excited about this.
Uh-huh. Yeah. What party are you?
Eastern North Carolina, and so like the way that we make barbecue is really simple. You just take a pork butt, you take 2 pounds of brown sugar, and you just cover that baby. You just give her a little massage. Make sure you get all the angles, pack her down real good, and then you sit her in the oven for about 12 hours at 250. And you cover her in apple cider vinegar and have yourself a party.
Mm.
Did I not tell you I was a hillbilly from North Carolina, Sarafina?
Love it.
I would like you guys to both know that you were speaking to a vegan who has not had meat in like 13 years or something. So I'm
We
just
can
gonna,
do it with mushrooms.
I just hear someone boo in the background.
I think it's Dylan in his mansion.
Is he like peeing with the door open? Dylan, what are you doing?
I don't know.
Living the life, baby.
You've been gone a long time. What's happening?
He got stuck.
Probably got lost.
I'm not sure that happens to men or women, but also men. Anyway, why are you vegan?
So I realized that I was lactose intolerant and my tummy hurt a lot of the time. I was like, I can't keep doing this. And I also, here's the thing. A lot of people I know who are lactose intolerant or who are vegan miss cheese. I was in so much physical discomfort from cheese that I hated it.
Yeah.
So to cut that out, I was like, awesome, great. I don't have to do that anymore. And I realized that a lot of things out of cheese had meat in them. And so it just kind of naturally, I was like, oh, I am cutting out meat. Great. And then I realized my body felt better without eating meat. And at that point, I was starting college and I took an animal ethics class. And that's kind of when I educated myself on how animals are treated and sort of the climate impact on eating animals. And I was like, good thing I'm already vegan.
Right.
And
honestly, like vegan makes sense if you don't have the dairy. So.
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I don't miss it at all. I eat fish occasionally. I'll have shrimp. Susanna, what is happening?
I'm asking Tim to get the dogs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. This is how this is supposed to go. Okay, we are being asked for our last thoughts. So
Moderators are like, shut up.
yeah, mods are like, it's
I
time.
heard dogs. I heard dogs.
Where are the
Where
dogs?
are you,
Bring the
Dylan?
dogs.
I'm
Mine's
sorry,
sleeping in
sorry,
the
I got lost
basement.
in the fucking. I got lost in the fucking.
Comment.
So glad. I would just like to express that I'm so glad that you got dressed up because you were like in a sweatshirt and I was like, no.
Oh yeah, with sweatshirt. I don't own one of those. What is that?
It must have been like part of like I must have thought it was a sweatshirt, but it was like a 3-piece suit.
It was,
I think.
there was
I don't know. I mean, it hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
Yay. I mean, I know Yeezy wanted to come out with the hoodie suit. And I'm the first one to kind of bring it out.
Hi.
Oh, what's up?
This is Hermes, and when he gets excited, he puts his collar in his mouth, and he looks
Oh, the messenger. The
Comet
messenger
is
god.
on
Comet.
the table.
Is he in your
Oh
lap,
my
Sarafina?
god.
It is in my lap.
And he's
Hell.
so happy.
Oh,
happy.
Imogene, do you have a dog?
Not
I
happy.
do. I have a hound mix, but he's
God.
downstairs and he doesn't like to sit in
Fuck.
laps like that. He would be
I'm
very
the
nervous
only
and
one who
concerned.
does
He'd be like
not
this.
have a
Comet is gonna knock off all of the alcohol on the table.
And
I
this one's
literally
Athena.
am the only one. I'm
This one's
literally the only one
Athena.
with a
She's
dog.
a
Oh,
she's
a
Oh
spotty.
my god.
so
Is
What?
she a Catahoula mix, Susanna?
Yes. No
Ugh,
one knows that.
gorgeous.
Yeah. So they
Oh
were.
my God, really? Catahoula mixed with what? Do you know?
Yeah. So I sent out their DNA. I sent it to Imogene, and I was like, "Hey, let's." And she was
Yeah.
like, I put it around in my Buzzy thing. No. So I sent out their DNA. So they were mutts. Oh my god.
Sorry, he is like very much not wanting to be here, but I'm gonna make him be here.
Yeah, that's fine. Like you feed them, it's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
okay.
I tell myself.
But they're basically half Staffordshire Terrier, so like fancy pit bull, and then
Yeah.
half everything else. So they were strays out in Mebane, North Carolina. So it's like trailer park, like a literal trailer park.
Yep.
Must have been having like some sort of breakdown because I saw them on the Facebook free and for sale, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I want
Aw.
8-week-old puppies. That seems reasonable as a single grad student who lives
What
alone.
could go wrong?
Yeah, but they have been like the actual like loves of my life. They're the best thing that have ever happened to me, and they've been so sweet. They get me out of bed in the morning. They like, I mean, a big thing for me was like, oh, they need to eat breakfast and dinner, and so I should eat breakfast and dinner. And like I would never look at them and be like, oh, well, you're not very well behaved, so you don't deserve to go outside, or you don't deserve to eat food, or you don't deserve to be happy. I'd be like, oh, that's a kind of a bummer. Let's work on that.
Right.
That's a
No, the dog has been like,
Dylan,
it's true,
why are
the
you
dog has been really
snuggling
integral to that.
Tide?
He's very
Am I
cute.
snuggling what?
You're snuggling Tide.
Oh, Tide.
Wait,
Like,
you're just gonna pretend like you didn't know what you were doing?
well, I mean, everybody's snuggling something.
except for Imogene. And also,
Except for Imogene.
I
But
guess
you do have dogs. You do have dogs in the house.
He's a
I don't have
lampshade.
dogs in the house.
That's a lovely lamp.
We're just doing inanimate objects now. It's because I have a giant lamp behind the laptop.
hell
I took
yes,
the shade
Tide
off so you
lamps.
can see my face.
Imogene and I like know it's good. You know, like I didn't want to have dogs into the.
You don't ruin the aesthetic.
Well, it's not the aesthetics, but I was afraid that they would get them. They would muddy up the suede couches.
Yep.
oh wow, we just got dragged.
What?
You get mad?
We are insensitive to people with alcohol addiction.
Okay.
And we're making substance abuse the butt of our joke.
No, we are partaking in the. I'll be the male and I'll take the hit on this one. No, we are taking place in one of the oldest human traditions of all time. Call me insensitive, cancel me, do what you will, but drinking is great. And we're here, and I'll drink the Tide.
I've got somebody in, alcoholism has touched my family personally. And so I can definitely understand why somebody would be sensitive to that. And so like if someone, whoever said that is experiencing that, I'm, sorry, obviously for that. It's obviously a hard, multifaceted topic that is like the comorbidity for that type of issue is linked to so many other things. But in this sense, I would have to say that obviously some people we're all idiots to an extent, right? We all do blunders and we're constantly learning ways to be better and not use language in a certain way and how to like
speak to yourself, kiss Tide.
But speaking like in a more mindful way. So like barring that, I don't think that I agree entirely.
Yeah, no, I really hope people watching have a good time because they like hearing us talk and they want to hang out with us. You can drink or you cannot drink. I like to drink.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh no, I mean, like, that's the thing is like we're being insensitive. No matter what the fuck I say, I'm being insensitive to somebody, and so whatever that's gonna be, like, I'm not like sitting here saying anything controversial. Like, I think deeply about the things that I feel are important.
Well, I
And
think
if you
it's
disagree with
important
me
to
on that,
be sensitive to people that have a different experience living, basically, whether it's
right?
gender,
No, I
whether it's
agree, but that's
religion.
not gonna like make me drink less
Yeah, no,
and like
I
make me
it's
not.
called drunk science. I mean, that's a reality. And I
That's
think
a
that's one of the
God
biggest
damn it. Yes, Susanna, you
on
just
on
God
social media. And I think that there is a problem, going back to that point of there is a difference between drinking and alcoholism.
Right.
There is a difference. And I know plenty about alcoholism from family situations. Drinking with friends is not alcoholism. And if you mix up the two, you're creating a very big issue where it's either minimizing people's experiences or it's minimizing the importance of what is happening in someone's life.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That's very well said. It's false conflation.
God damn, yeah.
Very articulately
And the
said.
truth is that every single healthy behavior, things like eating healthily, things like working out, things like spending time with friends, things like social isolation can all be unhealthy.
Right.
And so it's really important to think about the point of alcoholism, alcoholism though, is that it gets in the way of the rest of your life. It becomes something that you cannot put the other things that are important above it. It becomes something that you can't turn down. It becomes something that takes over. It's not the number of drinks. You could have 3 drinks a day. You could have 1 drink a day. If it's something that you can't turn down, that's a problem.
Yep.
You could have 5 drinks a day and it might not be a problem in terms of alcoholism. Anything can be unhealthy. Anything can be a problem. And it's about how it affects the rest of your life. And so I do strongly, personally, deeply feel for people who are dealing with these things. But at the same time, I'm a goddamn PhD. I drink alcohol. I have depression. And those things don't minimize each other. And it doesn't make me a bad person that I engage with some behaviors that might not be okay at a macro level.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
damn it. Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck. Go out on that.
That's
End the
really,
podcast,
really, really
Sarafina.
fucking well
End the
said.
fucking podcast.
Don't end on this note. And I was like, but Susanna just fucking killed it. So
God damn.
Pass the mic
Go
right
out on
on
that. I'm not
already.
saying a word. In reverence, I'm
that
not
was
saying a word.
awesome, Susanna. Thank you. Okay, so I think we should I like doing this. Imogene and I started doing this last time, our second podcast or whatever video thing of quick fire questions. So
Yes.
let's try. I need to find the thread, which I
Ask a question and we will have an answer.
Yes.
Ish.
I've
So
noticed
let's
that the sun
spend-
has not moved. in
what
my
do we
background
think?
yet.
Like 5 minutes on questions and then wrap up?
Sure.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna start my timer. Let's see.
I'm looking. Hold on. Let me go to the comments.
Does everyone have
Ooh,
drinks ready for this?
I do. And I saw a question.
Imogene, dopest motherfucker.
Okay, all right, Imogene, you're starting. We are at 5 minutes. Let's go.
All right. Someone asked, what instruments do we all play? I played violin for 8 years.
Oh, cool. I played drums for like a second.
That's
What?
awesome.
I
That's
played
like majorly badass.
the flakiest thing, but I'm down with it.
Your
All right.
turn, Susanna.
I said trumpet.
Oh, trumpet. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I love
I
jazz.
played guitar for my entire life, and I taught myself piano, and I've been playing it for like probably a year in cumulative. Next question.
Love mandolin.
Okay.
Let's see. Someone else? Anybody see one?
I'm looking. Let's see. Can we talk about Stephen Wolfram's new post? What do we think about it?
God damn.
Can we explain it? Let's give some context. So, Susanna, Imogene, are you guys aware of what this is? Okay.
No.
Dylan, you want to explain it? A very non-judgmental layperson.
Within our 5-minute context.
Follow
Let's
Mr.
go.
Nomer. Follow Mr. Nomer. That's all I want to say. I mean, after that, all I'm going to say, and I'm going to try and keep this under 30 seconds, is that it doesn't seem like he's presented anything deep, anything new, anything really
What did he
physically
do, though?
relevant.
Who is Stephen Wolfram? Why do we care?
Stephen Wolfram is the guy who came up with Wolfram Alpha, all these things. I mean, I think it was generally his idea to come up with a symbolic manipulation software, which honestly, not taking any credit away from him, is the best out there, no doubt. But my opinion on his theory of quote unquote everything is just that it doesn't seem like there's anything deep being said. It just seems like he's like, oh, well, we can. It just seems way too crackpotty. And honestly, I'm kind of second guessing to thinking whether or not I understand what he tried to put forward. Because it just seems like it's like, oh, look at all these patterns. Look at all these patterns. Oh, that could possibly represent quantum mechanics and wave function collapse and all these different things.
Yeah, so he basically came forward and said he had a theory for all of physics.
Yeah, and I get it. Like if he said like, oh, I have a computational method in which, that could lend insight into, the way that these structure constants and these fundamental constants are related and all these like very fundamental relations are related, I'd be like, okay, fine. Like I'm all for hints. It's like getting like a hint, like in like my math lab or whatever.
10 seconds.
Okay.
And it's like I was all for the hints and he seemed like the hint really didn't help.
Okay, all right. Question. If you guys had the undergrad/grad again, what other major or field would you pick? Susanna, go.
I thought about doing an English major because I thought it'd be cool to write, and I took one class in British literature and like 17th century British literature, and I was like, I love reading, but I don't like writing.
I still don't mean to stand, but you're really good at English.
That's so cool.
I'm really good at English. I have a minor in Spanish, but let's not try that one.
You have a minor in what?
Spanish.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I would do art history. I very, very much almost got a triple major with art history.
Wow.
Imogene, your turn.
Whatever it is you major in when you're pre-med, I would have just liked to cut up dead people. Not even joking a little bit.
Wow, that took a turn.
I'm also a really well-rounded and adjusting person. Come hang out with me.
Imogene fucking just turned into my favorite person overnight.
All right, Dylan.
Also, wait. I want to cut in here because I totally saw the person who dragged us and I blocked the fuck out of them. Screw that little check mark. I don't care.
Ayo, let's do it.
I block everyone who's a dick. I don't care. I don't.
Wait, I gotta find out later who you block because I missed blocking them.
We should have a block list.
No,
Block party. It's called block party. God damn it.
Okay,
Did somebody come up with that before me? Or is like, this is like, you heard of your
Thanks,
first
Jared.
inertial observer after hours.
I think I've
Thank you
heard
for joining
it.
us here at
Down.
Drunk Science.
Drunk Science.
I messed that one up.
Anyway, Dylan, what are you doing?
If I had to pick a what was it?
If
Major?
you had another major,
Sure.
I have 3 majors already. It would be
what
probably
are the-
electrical engineering,
What are the 3 that you currently have?
philosophy, physics, and my drunk ass almost said science. Philosophy, physics, and mathematics.
wow,
Cool.
level up. That's amazing.
Very dope.
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
Okay.
Let's see.
What
you
is
still have
the
time?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, go.
What is the backstory on the Totoro picture?
Totoro. This is Totoro.
I thought that was Gengar from Pokemon.
This is Totoro. How the fuck do you not know Totoro?
I thought that was Gengar.
I don't.
Okay, everyone needs to watch Totoro. Everyone needs to watch like 6 hours of Miyazaki films because they're amazing. Like Spirited Away, Kiki's
God, I'm so uncultured. I hate myself.
Princess
I don't know what
Mononoke.
this is.
Like fucking watch it. I don't care what you need to do to watch it. I always watch these movies when I'm sick, so I like get to watch them.
Toro. Okay.
I wouldn't.
What's his
I would
name? Who's,
recommend. Like,
no-
it's fine, but like it's so pretty and there's sad one. Anyway, so Totoro. I love Totoro.
Totoro.
Half of my room is like Miyazaki film random shit.
We don't have all the time in the world here, Susanna.
And then the first person to help me with PhD balance with PhD depression, she ran Twitter for us because we didn't have a Twitter, myself. And she drew this for me. So this was drawn by the person who, like the first team member for PhD balance.
Okay, thank you. Is
Awesome.
Totoro holding an umbrella? Is that my question?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
so cool, Susanna.
Because there's literally like a animate like cartoon of Gengar holding an umbrella under the rain, and I wonder if in some sense Gengar was resembled, like and meant to be this kind of depiction of Tortella.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I almost said tortilla, and I just knew.
We have timed out, so I have a question. If we were all going to have a superpower, what would it be? A superpower.
I want to be
Oh
invisible.
my god! I literally saw a TikTok on this today. That was hilarious.
I hate myself, but I didn't see it, so it's fine. Susanna, go.
Invisible. I want to be invisible.
Oh my god, me too. That was literally the fucking thing I was gonna say.
Dude, I would fucking use it to go through the airport.
Of course, yeah. No, the
Wait,
TikTok I
Timothy,
saw
what
was
would
like,
you
oh,
do?
like I wouldn't use it like go in the girls' locker room. I just left my homework there. Like it's like that.
Yeah, I just like want to go to the grocery store.
Do not approve, Dylan. Imogen.
No, that
what
was
is
a TikTok.
your-
That was not me.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine.
I mean, I would obviously use it to like sneak into the Library of Congress and figure out all the confidential documents that are not accessible to the public.
Okay.
Let's see. I started to say something to that, but I don't want to because this is on recorded line and the government's probably watching. I would definitely want to have a superpower in which I could either, I don't know, both. You can like manipulate the elements
Oh, that's.
and like talk to animals.
Wait, but
She
that
wants to
really
say
is-
invisibility so bad. She wants to say
Would you just
invisibility
like,
so
be
bad.
a god?
Hang on. Yeah,
That's
that
where I want, like
is
Storm from X-Men. She's like, lightning out of my fingers. I'm gonna call it make a tornado. Like, I'm about that.
Is it Thunderbolt? What was her
I
name?
don't know how it would be useful in any capacity.
Storm.
You are
Yes.
literally
God damn.
shaping. If you can change the elements / manipulate them, you are shaping the universe. In which case, you're a god.
But like, if you're a superhero, like that shit doesn't even affect you, anyways. So
But
it's like,
if that doesn't count as a superpower because it's too leveled up, I will back down a bit and say I would like the superpower where you don't feel any pain.
oh,
Yeah.
that's a good one. But people like exist like that, and like it's a difficult thing to track, right? You're being insensitive with them.
Like from you're talking about like people actually don't have like the nerve sensors and they can't actually feel
Right.
pain.
Right.
Okay. We'll come back to this next week.
All right.
I'm
Well,
sorry, I didn't
Let's
mean to.
watch one or the other.
Can our guests sign off with where people can find them and just a quick recap of what they do and a project, aka Susanna's PhD project.
Susanna, you're
Oh.
first.
Susanna, handle and where people can find you and what's happening on Monday.
Sure thing. So yes, so my handle on every single platform is at Susanna, Susanna, the letter L, Harris. And
Description of this video.
what?
It's in the description of this video if anyone wants to click on it. It's there.
Yes. And then on Monday, I'm doing my public defense. So I have completed my private defense, which means that I am a doctor, but this is a kind of celebration so that my friends and family can see what I have been doing.
Hell yeah. Cannot wait to see it. 11 a.m. Pacific on Monday.
Yes, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Dylan,
Yeah.
where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Inertial Observer without the third E or the second E in Observer. And you can find me on YouTube at Dylan Space Burger.
Cool. All right, Imogen, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. My handle is biologistimo. I go by Imaging, but it is IMO due to character limits. And you can also find me on my website, which is biologistimaging.com, or under Instagram at biologistimaging. Because there's not a
Cool.
character limit.
I think that was the
Awesome.
best plug out of all three of us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was strong. All right, Susanna, thank you so much for being on tonight.
I I just want to do a quick shout out because I read this wrong at first and I was really sad, but like Sarah
Okay.
Olson has our back.
Yeah, no, Sarah for sure has our back. There's a
Our
lot of
back
people
on
on
what?
Twitter having our back right now.
Wait, is it
On-
a read?
On drunk
Read-
science in general. So
Oh,
yeah.
are we be
Susanna, do you want to read it?
Oh, am I in the center of something?
Oh, I think it was good. I think it was good. Yeah, Sarah Olson is just saying like that is calling out this other person who was like, you're making alcoholism a joke, and we're like, no, that's alcoholism is not a joke, and this whole thing.
We're not sitting here, yeah, like being like beat your wife and all this crazy
Whoa.
shit. Like,
whoa, not
Yeah.
related, not related.
Yeah, but
I mean, I feel like that's like something that like people like kind of.
No, I mean,
yeah.
it's such a complex issue, but the thing is
Yeah.
that it's so important to separate behaviors from things that you can't get out of. Like there's behaviors and there's habits, right? And that's the thing, is that it's all about what behaviors are becoming habits and which habits are keeping you from completing the behaviors that are really important to your life. And I think that it's really cool to see, and I think it's important for people to call us out or call us in. I like that phrasing of like, hey, is this appropriate? I love that Sarafina is really honest about the fact that this is called drunk science. If you don't want to see people being drunk and talking about science, don't fucking come on here.
Yeah.
You know what?
yeah. And from context that I've kind of gotten adjacently, because I have not been on socials over the last 3 hours because I've been drinking with you guys, it sounds like the person who posted about this being kind of an unsafe place was retaliating against Sarah, which I'm super sorry, Sarah. That sucks.
God damn it! What the fuck is going on?
There's some weird stuff happening on social media.
I would like to say that my therapist approved of this. So go.
Yes.
Yes, go fuck
Safe
yourself.
space.
Yes.
This is a safe space, and we try really hard to make it that way. Thank you,
fucking
Maud,
awesome,
so
Susanna.
much for doing really great work tonight.
Yes,
Keeping
thank
this a really safe and fun atmosphere. Thank you, guests. Imogen, my co-host, thank you so much. We are gonna do this next week.
Official
And,
co-host now, right?
Really excited to keep doing this. So thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Stay safe with COVID stuff and life stuff, I guess. Susanna, good luck on your defense on Monday. We will all be tuning in. So
And follow her.
yes, everyone follow all of the people tonight. This
All the
was a great
people.
episode. Had a great time. All right, good night, guys.
Bye.